You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens.
And we're back for another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, this has been quite the August. We're like midway into August, and summer is starting to wind down, but there's still some more for me. I mean, I have one last big epic, well, I got two big epic summer, I think, experiences up my belt coming up. I have some things coming up, something like Labor Day weekend and everything. So in many ways, I feel like Labor Day weekend for me is my summer conclusion. Now, I know they say fall technically starts in late September, translation Libra season, but I told you a while back, a couple episodes back, that there is a hood holiday calendar that does not necessarily align with whatever the solstice is saying, right? So it's like, I think it's Memorial Day is the start of summer, and summer ends at the conclusion of Labor Day weekend. Now, you see that summer is supposed to start late June, which means that the clock moves up, so then the holidays move up. So it will be late June, late September is what the calendar says. But the hood calendar for the holiday says it's Memorial Day to end of Labor Day. And then fall begins right after Labor Day, right? Because you can't wear white anymore. So fall begins then, and then fall ends at Thanksgiving. Like, we autumn cornucopias, cute little leaves, brown leaves. We move past that after Black Friday. Black Friday, it's holiday shopping, right? Christmas shopping, all that kind of shopping. This is not Halloween. This is Christmas. So you move past that, and I would say winter starts then. And so then people say, well, when does winter end and when does spring start? For me, it's going to be St. Patrick's Day. I believe that the St. Patrick's Day, when we get into March, or at the start of spring break, or March, or I would say St. Patrick's Day, if you're looking at a holiday, winter goes from Black Friday, which is the day after Thanksgiving, to St. Patrick's Day. Luck of the Irish, because that green, everybody's coming out, pot of gold, rainbows, people going out to bars. So I believe spring starts then, and then spring is from, like I said before, spring is from St. Patrick's Day to Memorial Day, and that's the hood calendar. See how I did that? It's all connected to holidays. So one more time for those who want to just take this little mental note. Spring is from St. Patrick's Day to Memorial Day. Summer is from Memorial Day until Labor Day weekend. Fall is from Labor Day weekend to Thanksgiving. Winter is from Black Friday to St. Patrick's Day. Boom. They all touch. They all intersect. That's the calendar for me. So summer, we got roughly, 2 weeks of summer? 2 weeks and some change of summer. That's the calendar. Okay? I didn't make the rules. The hood did. But that's how I measure my height. At least that's how I start dressing mentally. I'm already thinking about it right now. Like, okay, what kind of outfits and pieces have I not worn yet? Because when we get into fall, we're starting to phase into cardigans, very, very mindful, very, cutesy, very demure. That's what we're doing, for fall. We're definitely going to be, some deeper colors, some richer hues, some grays. I'm shout out to Telfar. I definitely have been rocking the new line of bags, giving you all a sneak preview. The flash bag is out with a flash wallet for those who really like to match the bags with the wallets. I'm not crazy about a bunch of wallets because I like one wallet or two. I have one solid wallet that I really love from them, which is their patent black leather one that kind of goes with everything. I feel like it's a lot already for me to switch bags and to switch wallets. It's just intense. So I don't have too many Telfar wallets personally, because I don't, I mean, it's cute when you want to find a good bag with it and to that degree, but I just feel like I'm not invested in switching that many times. So I switch my bag because it's easy to move. But a wallet, once you get those cards and you get your things in there, it's pretty, light. And so I used to have the regular black wallet, but then when the patent black one came out, it matches with my patent black bag, but it's very versatile. It moves around, and I don't really like showcase my wallet like that. So I never really needed the multiple wallets, but I know there are people who are obsessed. Some guys who don't want to have a Telfar bag, which is a loss, for them. They're missing out. You can use the wallets as blended. So I know there's a guy I know who he doesn't really carry the bags, but he's like all into wallets. So for him, he's switching out wallets like the way I switch out the bags. So it's committed, but it's a look. It's a look. So I see that there's now a new set of like big Telfar wallet fans. And I think the wallets there's only one size for the wallet. So I guess money-wise, the price is, I want to say, on par with a medium-sized bag. Based on what I've seen, I think the prices they may have been a little less. I know people are into the stocking of them. They're more accessible. Like, they don't sell out as fast. So the Telfar wallet is $144. The medium shopping bag on average is $200. And then the small shopping bag is $150. I never got the small shopping bag. I know people like the small bag. No, I'm a medium and I'm a large. Now I have one large bag, Telfar bag, which is my favorite. One of my favorites, the black one. It's just big. It's black. It do what it do. It is like I only wear that on special occasions. When I go to the airport, which has been a lot lately, more to come on that. That is my carry-on bag. And how I get away with it is that my Telfar bag is my Telfar shopping bag is my personal, and my large shopping bag is my carry-on. So that's what I do. I put my laptops in there because I never put my laptops in my suitcase. If I'm, flying out, I never put my laptop in there. I've heard horror stories. I'm just like, no, the laptops have to be with me with the chart and all the chargers. That is what goes in my carry-on bag. And then my personal bag is my snacks, hand sanitizer, everything else. So that's how I've been able to really balance, my go-tos and things. But I don't really carry a large shopping bag unless I'm traveling, unless I'm going to, I really don't even go to the beach. I would say if I'm going to the beach, and y'all know I hate the beach. Just like a function where I need to carry multiple wine bottles and other things. But like, it's very seldom that you'll catch me with the large shopping bag. The medium is where it's at. I switch out my mediums based on moods, outfits, seasons, as you all know. And don't even ask me how many Telfar shopping bags I have. More than a dozen. Let's just start there. More than a dozen. I got my greatest hits. I got my holidays. I got my whatever. It is what it is. I just love supporting a black queer-owned fashion designer. I've always said this for my years. When Gucci and Louis Vuitton, everybody, those are still cute bags. But I remember being like, I cannot wait for there to be a black designer that is going to make something so trendy, so nice, so classy, so demure, all of that. That they would make something so nice that it will be like, you won't even need to go back. And when Telfar dropped these bags, I was like, it's in trend. It's hot. And what's cool about it is that it's super affordable. Like, I love the fact that there is a variety of people that can get something so exclusive, yet so affordable and reasonable. Like, it's a very great bag. And yeah, I just love it down. So, just giving some love to Telfar. But yeah, it's we're in the last couple of weeks of summer. So I'm just making sure all of the clothes that I've gotten for summer, this is the time for me to start wearing it. Because some things I've just been waiting. Like, I have a pool party I'm going to in a week. I need to really I have a 2-piece set that I got, I want to say late May, around Memorial Day, because that's when they started dropping all these cute new summer clothes. And I was like, I'm going to wear this for this and this. And so now it's time to get for real about pairing these pieces before we get into fall. Because let's be real, when it's fall, the shorts are going away. I'm getting myself adjusted to wearing jeans again, because I've just been wearing, like, summertime, to be honest, I'm wearing shorts most of the time. Like, I want to say 80% of the summer I was wearing somebody's shorts. Different types, different looks, but I was really trying to avoid wearing pants unless I had to for like a formal event. But I was rocking shorts, okay? I was not playing any games. I love the summer for that reason alone. I always wear shorts, and I'm wearing like short sleeve beach shirts. I love the beach shirts. This year, the trend was poolside shirts, they was calling it, which I love that look, that cut. That was a thing this summer, and I really love the poolside shirts. They were dope. Of course, the Hawaiian luau beach shirts never go out of style. I played around with linens, see-through linens and things. It was a very, this summer was, I definitely, mixed it up style-wise. Same get up, but like patterns and things. I definitely did a lot of exploring, so that was good. But yes, this week, lots going on. For starters, I did a wonderful panel for the ACLU. The bag was bagging. I did a panel with the National ACLU and also members of ACLU Pennsylvania. I moderate this panel on crime and immigration regarding to the national election. There's been a poll, there's been some great research that they've done that is now out, that is basically debunking myths about how voters feel about these issues around crime, immigration, which immigration is considered a top topic that matter to voters in America, which is even, I get it, but I don't get it. For starters, most American voters do not live in what is called border states. So Arizona, Texas, California, like a lot of people don't live in border states where they should be even concerned about immigration to the rate to which they are. But we know this is because of the candidates, specifically Republican candidates, that have made this a topic in areas that even the border is not necessarily relevant. And just a lot of misinformation and a lot of fear mongering has driven a lot of the conversation around immigration in this country. Then you have a conversation about crime in general, where, again, the former president, Donald Trump, is consistently talking about cities like Chicago and Philadelphia, but like crime rates have been going down, and a lot of serious crime has been going down in the United States. Like, crime in America has been going down. And a lot of people are like, I'm surprised, but it has. Even in Philadelphia, it has been going down. And I want to say this about Philly, which is very interesting, which is going to tie in a lot of other things, is that I know crime is going down because the conversations that is being had about gun violence in Philly, people are still talking about it, but the way that certain organizations and groups used to have huge campaigns and grifts, I'm sorry, not everyone was having grifts, but I'm being real, grifts, because there are people who definitely have grifted off of crisis. It's very common, whether you're a progressive or conservative or whatever you are. Grifts happen amongst all of these types of issues where people see a moment, they capitalize, they exploit it, and they basically try to get a money grab off of solutions that are not actually feasible solutions. I mean, it's real. And I mean, people can get their feelings hurt, but it is a fact. It's a fact. I've covered grifts, scandals, and scams for most of my career. I've seen it. I've seen groups and people specifically capitalize off of a moment. I would be remiss to say that I do personally think that there are some people that are capitalizing off of this crisis with Palestine. I think there are people that are purposely, and again, there are people who have legitimate concerns, and that is valid. Okay, so if you fit in that box, I mean, clearly a hit dog will holler. If you feel some type of way, it's because you might be doing it. I mean, I've seen this with Black Lives Matter. I've seen this across the board. So I'm not someone that's picking various causes. I've seen various social justice issues where grifters have entered in the room and took up space and tried to capitalize off a moment. It's disgusting, and I tell people to be very mindful about who's doing what, right? And these grifts take off in different ways, shapes, and forms. But specifically with what's happening with the Palestinian crisis, right? There are individuals who I think are leading campaigns. They're getting funding to say they're fighting for a cause, and they're using the momentum to disrupt, to spread disinformation, to make people, anxious and unwary about this upcoming election. And they're literally chaos agents, and they're not really invested in the real solutions to actually confront this crisis, to do something tangible, to put a person in office that clearly is concerned, that wants to do something different. The goalpost keeps moving on this topic amongst progressives and those who are liberal, where you hear some people say, okay, elect the vice presidential candidate that's going to make a difference. Check. Okay, speak on a ceasefire. Been doing that, right? Check. Okay, now talk about embargo of weapons, which right now, because there's other issues happening in the Middle East, to try to not give weapons at all would be kind of foreign policy-wise stupid for how the U.S. would appear to the rest of the world and also to their allies, right? It would be virtually impossible for them not to give anything right now when there's other conflicts. Now, again, Israel is clearly violating, one could argue that are all the weapons coming to fight Hezbollah and get at Iran? That's what the intention should be. But we all recognize that that's not clearly the case, which is now creating a problem of like the narrative of the U.S. is giving them weapons to bomb Palestine and bomb Gaza. Okay. It is a tough dance. And again, I wouldn't want to be in that seat. Currently, the vice president isn't the one in the seat. It's the president of the United States, Joe Biden. But I believe once Harris gets the presidency, there's going to be a lot of interesting ways in which she has to confront and address this. But it's easy for certain people, right, who's not looking at the holistic framing of all of this, that they can just simply say no to this, cut. Yeah. And what's interesting is that it is American privilege, because everyone says that they want these things, but the safety of being in the United States in a certain degree, because everybody keeps talking, right? But I don't see people getting passports and leaving this country to go somewhere else, right? So there's a part of me that wants to say this, and you want to have foreign security opinions, right? But you also ignore what allows you to have the safety and security to take these stances in the U.S. that some of the and this is complicated, and as somebody who has worked at places and been places where I've seen certain things, what I will say is that the hypocrisy of American progressives when it comes to foreign domestic policy is that while they make these strong, bold demands of the U.S. government to not do this or do that, they also don't recognize that in part of that strategy around safety, it is the very safeties that protect you from not having the experiences of very countries that you think you can give foreign advice and aid to. I hope people are picking up what I'm saying. It may be an unpopular opinion, but it is rooted in fact that a lot of individuals in the United States who are protected from international, terrorism attacks on a regular basis. How did we get like that? How did we get protected from terrorism on a massive scale? Like, we don't experience bombings in our states on a regular basis compared to other countries. How did we establish that? It came with a lot of possession of weapons, fear, and a lot of a bullish attack to make sure people did not hit the continental U.S. As a result, how do you do that? I mean, this has been going on for decades. It didn't start with Joe Biden. It didn't start with President Barack Obama. It did not start with George W. Bush, right? They continue it. It's been here. This type of security, foreign, domestic protection, this is not just something that fall from the sky. You decided to wake up one day and fall off a coconut tree and wake up and give a care about one particular crisis and one singular issue and said, okay, we should stop everything and save people. Listen, Congo has a word, right? There's other folks in other places that would like to have a word about this, about what's going on when you want to talk. Rwanda would like to have a word in the 90s. there's a lot of countries that would like to have a word. And so as a voter and as someone who's informed a lot more on this, it is a very complicated situation that trying to just act like one singular action, let me be very clear, one singular foreign policy moves impacts another. It also creates a situation where any allies that we're in partnership with to protect our own country, if they falter, what does that allow? Opens the door up for another adversary who's reckless, right, and may have access to weapons. What will they do to the U.S., right? And so when you hear certain voters say, we got to put on our mask before we put on another mask, this is what they're talking about, like self-preservation to a certain extent. And again, this is why foreign policy is something international, domestic. I tell people, please, it's so easy to be in the safety and security of your own home, being protected by a country that is literally the world's superpower when it comes to weapons and attacks, to cherry pick who don't get what in the name of protecting. Because in some cases, respectfully, if you just kind of go laissez-faire and say no to this, that, and the third, you open yourself up to getting the same types of harms that other places are getting. And most Americans and most people don't want to experience what other countries have. They don't want to go through those same sacrifices. And so if you understand that this is going to take a level of negotiation and time to get to that resolution without having to sacrifice as much, then you know that it's going to require that. And let's be real, there is nothing that Vice President Kamala Harris can do right now that can stop this war, because it's going to require, one, a president that's still in office, and two, a prime minister like Bibi Netanyahu to be accountable. The truth of the matter is, what no one's talking about, because everyone's so fixated on Vice President Harris, is that Trump is in conversation with Bibi Netanyahu, and there is speculation that he is in some ways trying to encourage Netanyahu not to take a position in the middle of this campaign, to wait until after the election to decide whether to let go or to back down on some of the attacks that's happening in Gaza. So there is a political, this is political. And it's obvious that I would assume that the vice president knows this. I would assume that Biden knows it as well, that there is in so many ways a desired interest from, not from the U.S. currently, but from Bibi Netanyahu on a political angle, to wait this out to see who's going to get elected before he really makes some serious moves to fall back. And so, again, given that everyone's hands are tied up, to me, the only solution currently, if we want to talk about actual domestic foreign policy on this issue, would be for Kamala to win. She's got to win. The vice president has to win the presidency, because once that happens, Bibi Netanyahu knows her position on this, and the pressure for him to back down on this, I think, would increase. It's not going to happen right now, I don't think, because he's weighing out to see what's going to happen, because we already know what Trump believes. Trump does not want to save Palestine, does not want Gaza to be protected from this humanitarian crisis. He has already said he wants Bibi to finish the job, quote unquote, which we know what that means. That kind of rhetoric means he wants him to basically take Palestine and Gaza off the map. He wants it done. He says finish the job. That would be the type of intention. So if we know that Trump means pretty much the end of Gaza from a United States foreign policy standpoint, if he gets the presidency, then there is no question to me about who is more in favor of that issue than the vice president. I mean, we just got to call a thing a thing. You get Trump in office, it's done. It's done. You get the vice president, Kamala Harris, in there, there's a conversation to be had. And there's going to be a different type of negotiation around this issue. And she's taking tougher stances than the current President Biden. So we know what to expect if she gets in office, that there is a high likelihood that this is not happening, that Gaza, that Palestine is not being blown off the map. You put Trump in there, he says he's gonna let Bibi Netanyahu finish the job. So to me, that's how I'm viewing this. I can't act like I know anything more that I can do between now and November 5th to change the outcome. But what I can tell you is that there's a stark difference between these two camps in policy. So continuing to force a vice president who does not have the ability to change anything between now and November 5th, all she can do is do the best that she can to get into her seat so that this can get resolved faster than it is what it is, right? So that's where I'm at with it. But you got grifters out here that's convincing people that this can happen immediately, that there could be enough public pressure that the policy change. I'm sorry, it's nothing to change I think the president and vice president would like to see this get done faster. They would like an immediate ceasefire. Problem is that with Israel at play currently in the midst of this, it's going to require Israel to have to stop. Because if the U.S. pulls out completely, what's going to happen is that Israel is going to go completely ham at this moment. And they're going to, and also there are going to be people in the United States. Not all Jewish voters support this current situation, but there are some that might look at it like the U.S. turned its back on Israel and left Israel vulnerable for attacks. That is how some people, voters, would feel about that issue, and will say that the U.S. turned its back on its foreign ally, one that they've been connected with for decades. And what does the optics look like to the rest of the global community in seeing the U.S. do that? Again, there's nuances here. There's levels to this. But when you're zeroed in on one issue and you only care about that one issue, you can't consider all the other optics, it can be easy to miss out all these important considerations and details that will create more harm. So the question becomes, if you're an American voter, that really, let's be clear, you don't have that much sway in this. The best thing you could do, because you're not going to be in the situation room, is to say, let me vote for the candidate that is going to do the most to reduce harm. And that candidate right now is Vice President Kamala Harris. I don't care about everything else that everyone else is saying. That is just what we have right now. That's all we can do as voters. We can't, unless are we taking planes? Are we flying to Gaza? Are we doing any humanitarian efforts? Are we going to join the fight and fight against Israel? No one's doing that. Okay. So then what are we doing? We're voting. We're asking that we're going to keep reminding the candidates to keep this in mind and prioritize this, which I believe that the pressure they've gotten has played a role in shaping it. But at a certain point, we've done the part. We've gotten to this point. At this point, there's nothing they can do right now. We really in a position where we have to weigh this out. That's all we have. I'm not going to BS you and sell you up a creek about this, because people ask me this all the time. I'm like, look, there's so many things you can do. But again, I tell people, while we're talking about Palestine, I want to know about Sudan and I want to know about the Congo. If you don't know what's going on in Sudan or the Congo, look that up. But there's a lot of, people talking about free Palestine, which I agree. I think there needs to be a very different way that they're operating. I think, we need this to happen, right? We need the safety. We need them to be liberated. There needs to be an alternative that does not lead to this consistent bloodshed, right? But that being said, people will say free Puerto Rico and free Guam. These are U.S. territories. Look, conversations to be had across the board. But I bet you the people that want to see Congo be free and Sudan be free, they're not going to determine their entire vote on one particular foreign domestic issue or for foreign international issue or whatever. We're not going to see them fixate. I get it, right? It's a terrible situation. But as somebody who's a journalist that sees world crises and issues, if the argument is stop this particular situation, I can give you 15 other situations that you might want to stop. And if you did want to stop those, it will come at the risk or come at more vulnerability of attacks to the U.S. And when you start having those conversations with people, the conversation changes. So I digress. But that was on me. And I just was like, I hear a lot about this. And I just was like, let's talk about it. But back on crime and immigration with ACLU, their report is basically showing that a lot of voters are more driven by solutions-based methods to addressing crime. That a lot of individuals are not heavily on just arrest people, lock people up, that they actually, if put in a position, like it's almost contradictory in some of the polling where they said people wanted more law enforcement, but then people also wanted more solutions-based without realizing how police budgets work or how public safety budgets work. That the pie does not increase both ways. That most city governments, local governments, whatever, right? They don't get huge fat. You know, if you want a huge fat police budget, that's taking away from other budgets in the city. That the pie doesn't increase for more police and more recreation. It's just not, money is not falling from the sky to give everybody what they want. Oftentimes, if you increase the police budget, you're taking money out of other essential departments and spaces in the city. We saw this happen during the pandemic where the police budget did not decrease, it didn't increase, it kind of stayed flat. But in order to keep the police budget flat, everything else had to suffer. I mean, we saw city offices in Philadelphia get completely gutted during the pandemic. Arts departments, other things just get gutted because they were like, look, we got to make sacrifices. So, but the one thing that does not get sacrificed is the police department. So it's one of those things where everybody keeps talking about defund the police, this, that, and the third. Oh, people want to defund the police, and it's like the defund thing never really happened in Philadelphia. I mean, having a flat budget wasn't a defund, people. And also, again, interesting enough, crime is going down in Philadelphia. And the crime numbers are going down, gun violence wise, but we're seeing this positivity. And people are like, well, what's happening? One is that, the police budget has increased, but you also got a better leader. I think that the current police commissioner we have is way better. I mean, absolutely better than what Kevin Bethel is a better police commissioner than Daniel Outlaw was. That's just a fact. I mean, we're seeing the way that issues are being handled. I believe that if you would have saw Daniel Outlaw handle some of the issues that he has faced in his tenure thus far, you would have saw more tear gassing. You would have saw more, ridiculous arrests. You would have just saw more debauchery. And so I will say that Kevin Bethel has been a better police commissioner than Daniel Outlaw. That's just an observation of the situation. As a result of that crime reduction that we're seeing, we just don't see so much hyperness of crime. I mean, you'll see people, if there's a shooting, they'll try to make it like it's a global, there's the idiots that continue to do that. But look, you live in a major American city, shootings happen. But do shootings need to happen as frequently, as often? No, but they're going to happen. I mean, that's just what it is. If you live in an American city, you live urban, it's just going to happen, right? And poverty has not been completely fixed in the city as well. So there's always going to be that correlation. And people just got to be real about that, right? So I'm never someone that's like, oh, there's going to be no shootings. No, because you're not going to get that down to zero if you're in a city where people are still dealing with poverty. But to see the numbers go down because there's been different ways that crime has been addressed in conversations and interventions, it is promising. So we do see that, right? But back to voters with crime is that they want solutions-based methods of dealing with crime, right? They want that. They really do. But at the same time, they also want more police and more funding for police. And these things contradict. But the interesting thing about the report is that when you put them in a seat and you ask voters to pick one or the other, according to ACLU's research, which is national research they've done across all the states, the research showed that most voters want solutions-based approach than just the law and order, police, lock them up, which for me was a surprise. I was like, wow, okay, so most voters overwhelmingly want solutions-based methods that does not require mass policing and incarceration and things. That was surprising. Immigration, most people don't understand immigration. They don't. Most voters do not really understand the immigration process to really, I mean, they have opinions and fears, but they actually don't really understand it, is really the gist. Their understanding of it is it really kind of is, they're not that aware of or understand the current policies in place. They have opinions about border or safety, but they don't really understand the immigration process and some of the contradictions and issues. That was clear across the board, which does not surprise me, because when I hear people talk about the border or these various issues, they don't really, they're just saying folklore and fantasy. Like a lot of it is just like one of the things is that there's this narrative by Republicans that say that fentanyl and certain drugs are being smuggled through the U.S. from the border, and it's coming into the U.S., and that is what's creating the opioid epidemic and the crisis that we face. That's just not true. Many of the fentanyl, opioid-related deaths and drugs is a United States, is a domestic exchange and usage. It's not this, foreign people are smuggling in these drugs and that's what's creating these. It's not that. That was crack. And we know what was going on with crack in the 80s and how that was happening, okay? That was a failure on the part of Ronald Reagan, okay? Wrong president, wrong era, baby. That's not the case here in the U.S. Most of these deaths and usage and this is U.S. This is a United States domestic issue. But yet that is the rhetoric coming from the right that is another border concern. That is just not true. When we're talking about crime, there is not massive crime that is happening because of issues at the border in the U.S. So this whole idea of like, oh, immigrants are coming into, they like to call them, I call them undocumented immigrants. They want to call them illegal. No person is illegal. So that's why you don't hear me use that word illegal. But undocumented immigrants who are coming into the U.S., undocumented, right? They're not coming into cities creating upticks in crime. Like that's another just lie. Like Chicago, Houston, Philly, Atlanta. Like if there's crime issues in those cities, it's not because undocumented, immigrants are coming here and just they're just wreaking havoc. Like that's just not true. And we're seeing this consistent lie. Any time a person is an immigrant that is here, there's just the racism and the xenophobia of like, oh, you got to send them back. They're coming here with crime. It's not true. Donald Trump has been saying this for years. It's just not true. So the whole heightened fear around immigration is, oh, and then the job lie, right? Oh, they're taking our jobs. What jobs are they taking? Like, again, what jobs are they taking? Like, if they're undocumented and you have to work, like, I'm just trying to figure out what jobs. Like, are you talking about migrant worker jobs, like at farms and in situations like that? Well, newsflash, who is letting them take your jobs? Are those farmers, United States farmers, business owners who claim to be conservative, but actually they're the ones that want the cheap labor to exploit people? Those individuals? You talking about them? Oh, okay. Because if they're so proud to be American and they're like so big on giving people fair wage jobs, then who's hiring them? Because it's the farmers, it's the ones that are voting for Trump that's saying keep them out the country, but using their labor. Interesting. Never understood that logic about the taking the jobs. I've just never. When I hear they're taking the jobs, I'm just like, what jobs? And who's giving them the jobs? Because, there must be an anti-American approach to this concept. Because if everybody's on board with giving everybody American a job that are citizens, then who's giving them those jobs? Oh, okay. Those farmers. Because you're accusing the farmers of doing it. And clearly the farmers must be doing it because, let's be real. So then who are those farmers and how are they voting in these southern states? Interesting. I'm just looking at the hypocrisy, people. Okay, so what are these jobs? Are they taking teachers' jobs? Are they taking police jobs? Are they taking firefighter jobs, corporate jobs? I just want to know what jobs they're taking because the data, if you actually applied for a job in the United States in 2024, there's so many damn clearances, right? There's these questions of you got to prove your citizenship to get jobs. I'm about to start at CCP, Community College Philadelphia, in early September. I have not had a situation so far where they asked me for my Social Security, they wanted to see a passport or another form of ID. I'm just trying to figure out who's getting those jobs. Like, they're not getting those jobs. What jobs are they taking? Like, I'm just not seeing a massive group of undocumented individuals taking these big, high salary labor jobs with benefits. Like, who's taking those jobs? They're not taking them, y'all. Like, where are they? So this, again, another myth. And again, this was addressed. So the jobs myth around immigration is bullshit. Crime is bullshit. smuggling drugs, creating, not happening. Not happening in the ways in which we think it is based on the rhetoric. So we know that issue around the border is BS. So now the question becomes, okay, who's getting what, right? Who's getting the other resources? Who's connecting people? And that becomes its own field day, where I personally believe, and I think that the surveys show that most people didn't understand immigration, but they did want a more clearer process of citizenship, which I agree. I think the United States do make it difficult for people to get citizenship in the country, and that's what's creating some of these problems. But I think we all need to just see better policy to actually make a better pathway to citizenship for immigrants who want to come into the country. And when you're having Muslim bans like what Trump did, which was fucking xenophobic and just racist, right? That's not, what is that doing, right? That's just, that has nothing to do with legitimate immigrant policy. That's just basically just documented legislative racism. It's like, we're just not going to, it's Islamophobia. It's legislative Islamophobia. Like, just, I don't want Muslims. Boom. There's nothing safety-wise about it. There's nothing about any of it that's rooted in facts or grounding. So that's what we learned. But overall, what we have seen, the research has seen, I would say, is that people are very much in the middle, and not in a very bad way, but more so central, and more so leaning left and leaning right. But we found that their openness to certain candidates changes. So if you are a Republican that speaks sensibly about immigration, respectfully and sensibly, you are more likely to win over a Democrat that is a central moderate Democrat. Interesting. If you are a Democrat that does not try to appear hyper conservative on particular issues like around crime and immigration, you talk more solutions oriented and you more practical, you're more likely to beat a Republican who kind of plays the basic level rhetoric. You're actually going to do better in the polls, or do better. You're more likely to win your election. And this is like different types of surveys of personalities and positions, like on issues. And so what we're seeing, though, with the election is that Vice President Kamala Harris, in running for president, she has made more ads talking about being tougher on the border in ways that are considered not favorable and problematic to immigration advocates. I can see why she's doing it, because it looks like she hasn't had a position. And there's been, the narrative of her being the border czar, which isn't an accurate depiction of her role, even though media, far-right media, but also some, publications like Axios and others played into calling her the border czar, which gave her a outsized, over-embellished role in the immigration issue at the border than she really actually had. And so there was some interesting rhetoric and language that was used that now create the problem we have now, where you're seeing Republicans now attack her on the border in a way that is just not accurate. It's not an accurate depiction of what she could have done. She went there. She listened. She amplified Biden's positions that were his positions, but she didn't really remix and come up with new shit. And so a lot of the added pressure that's been put on her now because of the way that she was being described in the press. And I would argue that the Biden administration should have definitely shut that down when it was happening. I think it's come to bite them in the ass a little bit now, but I feel like at that time they were trying to figure out what to do with her. I still think in the very beginning of Biden's first term, they didn't really know what to do with Vice President Harris. I think there was a part of them that was like, because she was young, she, younger than him, let me be very clear, younger than him, that there was also that thought of like, will she be overambitious? Will she upsert him? So I think they really wanted to kind of keep her, not too visible, because there was that wondering about ego. Kind of like what's happening with Shapiro, right? Like if Shapiro would have been a vice presidential pick for Harris, would he have been upserting her? I think because he was a man and she's a woman, I think the gender dynamics and just also the racial dynamics, I think may have given him more inklingness to do it than I think Kamala. I don't think Vice President Harris would have been as interested in upstaging the president. I think gender, race, all of those things would have not been, it would have not happened as prominently or as immediate as what would have potentially happened with Shapiro with Harris. I think those are like two different scenarios. But nonetheless, I think they were trying to basically let Biden shine more. And so they kind of gave her these, what I would consider these pet projects to kind of be involved in, but not really have so much authority in. But to a certain extent, the media largely framed her as being the person. And I think to a certain extent, the press, I mean, the Biden administration, I don't think they knew what it really was, but I think they did not mind letting her have some type of look of authority over something that she really didn't. Yeah, this is a tough talk right here. We just being frank. We close to November. We're not gonna sugarcoat what was going on. But that's my observation. Now, overall, this report you can find on ACLU. They're gonna put it out on their social media. Follow ACLU Pennsylvania's page, ACLU National. But this report will be coming out. It's already out, I believe, but it'll be on their website. There's going to be some mass campaign to let people know. But I think what they're really trying to do is encourage the candidates to rethink the messaging, because the campaign messages from both Trump and Harris do not really reflect the actual taste and interest of voters. So while they think they need to amplify crime or talk about immigration a certain way, it appears that voters are in an opposite way of thinking about these issues, that these ads and messaging do not necessarily resonate. I think Harris has been a little bit more, when she's at rallies, have talked about a little bit with more nuance, but her ads are not as, does not really reflect, I think, how sophisticated her thinking is policy-wise on this issue. The kids been reading, okay? So yeah, that's what's going on with ACLU. Now to some lighter things before we get into, hot topics. I guess I kind of did a mixture this week, but some of this stuff is relevant. A lot of it is relevant. So 3/4 of the Lit Brothers, that's myself, Jamarcus and Gio, Dr. Gio, the three of us. Josh was not able to come. We went to the grand opening pool party of 1001, which was a cute party. It's a new property by the Post Brothers that is on Broad over there in South Philly. That's that new property. It's not fully done, but we got a beautiful sneak peek of the lounging social areas. It was an incredible pool. Probably the best pool the Post Brothers have ever built. People always talk about their construction and the different things they're doing. For the past, I want to say, 3 to 4 years, Jamarcus and I, the Lit Brothers, as a collective, has been going to these openings. I mean, Somar, the Piazza, all of the different properties they've had over the past several years, we've gone to the pool parties. It's become an annual thing for us. And so this one was right on the same day of Dinner and Blanc, and I got some tea about that. We went with our good Judy Sharon, who we just love to death. Sharon was with us, and we just had a good time. We were very cute. We looked very nice. And I wore all white. She wore an all white dress because I had a cute all white piece. And I was like, I was going to wear it to Martha's Vineyard, but we didn't go to any all white parties. But every time you go to the Vineyard, especially in August, you just always bring an all white number, because you just never know, because there's always going to be another all white party, which, quite frankly, I'm not crazy about all white parties, to be honest. But anyway, you just always have one. You never know, right? I mean, Diddy used to have all white parties, but we don't fuck with Diddy anymore. Or at all, to be honest. No Diddy. But, there's other people that have all white parties, like, Councilman Curtis Jones has his all white party. Not the Vineyard, but, in general. And I think the Obamas typically have all white parties, but there's always an all white party at the Vineyard. So we just had it, but the outfit was not worn, and I did not want to waste this baby. So I was like, let me wear it, to this, because it is summer. People here know how to drink, so I should be okay. And the beautiful thing was, I did not spill anything on my all white. It was a miracle. But I feel like the older you get, the better you get at it. I don't know. I'm in my 30s now, so I know how to not get clumsy with things. I feel like I was always scared when I was like a teenager, like that was like a nightmare for me. But now I'm just very mindful, and very demure with it. I do find that phrase trendy. It is a Latinx trans woman who can now afford her transitioning. She invented this term that's went viral, and she's made so much money off of it that now she's been able to pay for her transitioning, which has been good for her. I mean, clearly this isn't going to last. This is going to die within 3 months, like all trends do. But it's great that she's able to instantly reap the rewards as a creator who did this, because we often see people who just hijack and steal these trends, and we never know who really did it. And it often happens to Black folks, and they never get to, savor the moment in the moment. This is not the case for this individual. And so shout out to her for creating like a cool catchphrase for the moment. So I wore my all white. The party was popping. It was lots of people. It was very vibey. Now, let me tell you why this was messy. This party took place at the same time as Dinner and Blanc. Now, you already know I don't go to Dinner and Blanc. I don't really care for Dinner and Blanc. It is what it is, okay? Y'all already know it. Google it. There's stories for years. The Dinner and Blanc this year was at Love Park, which is really corny. Apparently, they got the rats out in time, and clearly homeless people who were staying in the area. I always wonder at these events, where do the homeless people go? Where do the rats go? They just kind of just disappear when the city decides to give a damn, which is very telling. But it was a nice night. The weather was nice. People brought their tables and everything else to go down and have dinner. Interesting enough, and this is me being petty, and this is my podcast, so I could be a little tea time. Okay, let's have some tea time. Now, my good Judy Jamarcus and Dr. Gio are going to know the tea that I'm talking about here, because the tea is hot. I'm not going to name names, but some of y'all might have saw those pictures and videos, so maybe you already know. But the media I'm hearing or seeing, I saw, really not want to go to Dinner Blanc this year. They were not hype. At this party I was at, you might have saw a lot of people wearing all white. A lot of those people were the media people that was invited to Dinner Blanc that really did not want to go. And so they was at this party instead. This party was like from 4 to like 9 o'clock. It was like a day party vibe. The bar was popping, the food. But the party I was at, the pool party I was at for the Post Brothers party, they were there because they were all invited. Everybody was invited. And strategically, because it was on the same day as Dinner and Blanc, I think the strategy was for the PR team, who are fabulous, was to say, okay, it's at Love Park. The media went, the Dinner and Blanc setup, I don't know what time it's set up. I think maybe around 6 or 7-ish, I guess. But 4 o'clock was long before, the Dinner and Blanc started. I think they want the media to come to that first, and then they expect them to dip out once people was at their tables. Y'all, that didn't happen. There were media folks, some prominent ones, I'm not going to name their names, that was at the party literally till the end, around 8 o'clock-ish. They didn't come to Dinner and Blanc until like the last hour or so, and there's a reason why, because the tea is hot. They don't feed the media like they used to, apparently. The streets are talking. They don't feed them. When I used to go to Dinner and Blanc, like over 5 years ago, remember I told you all, for those who've been listening to this show, that when I went, they used to have a whole section. They used to feed us dinner. They used to have a bar for us. There used to be a whole meal. It was a whole vibe. Now, I hear it's snacks and some bar drinks or whatever, but it is not the whole full out experience anymore for the girls, for the media girls. And so they're kind of like saying, like, I didn't want to go there hungry. You want me to come here and be up in these people's face snacking on cheese and charcuterie? Like, where do they do that at? So the Post Brothers party I went to, child, they had a whole spread, baby. It was food. It was food. They had even a gelato station that was making fresh gelato and shaved. I mean, they just did the number at that Post Brothers party. I mean, it had to be like 1,000 people at that party, because it was spread out. We were everywhere. But it was some people at that party that was not Dinner Blanc. folks that were supposed to go to Dinner and Blanc that didn't go, media folks. And I was like, that was interesting. But what I'm hearing from people is that Dinner and Blanc is just kind of like, it's hit its peak culturally in Philadelphia. Like, the people that go, but it does not have the same demand and cultural thing. It's become officially a cult because now it's in its 11th year. So at this point, it just does not have the same. But I also think part of it was because of just how it's evolved. And, you know, look, I would assume that more money, I mean, turn the event to a charity event. I mean, personally, like, give people, like, put something to charity. Put some money into Philadelphia. Like, without the charity proponent, it's going to always just be underwhelming to folks or to the public. Like, there's things that, look, everybody can't go, right? Like, let's think about the Met Gala, right? The Met Gala is an event that a lot of people know about that do not participate in, right? They can't get tickets to go. They're not rich enough. They're not celebrities, right? So they don't get to go to the Met Gala. But there's a large audience of people that care about it, that are interested in the event for the fashion, for all of that. But that is a charity event to support the foundation so that they can preserve fashion art, right? So there is a charity proponent. Like, the whole idea of it is a fundraiser to support the restoration of fashion pieces. It's not just a bunch of rich people going to have dinner and celebrate each other. They're actually going with the intent to help fundraise and raise millions of dollars to help preserve art in New York and that fashion at the Met. So that's a big fucking deal. And that's pretty cool, right? And so that's why public interests don't feel guilty to go, because they're like, okay, yeah, it's this real Hollywood event, but it's a Hollywood event going to a cause. With Dinner and Blanc, it's like people are paying money to all this money to buy tables, to get food, to buy a ticket, all this, and it doesn't go to anything. And so let me just be very clear. I'm going to get real frank. I'm doing a couple of galas this year. Emphasis galas. 2 galas this year in November. And let me be very clear. When I hear certain people complain about ticket prices, because some of my folks are listening, so they're going to know what I'm talking about. But there are always people complaining about the price of tickets and this, that, and the third. I see your ass at Dinner and Blanc spending hundreds to go in an all-white party, and that money goes to no charity. And so if I see you at Dinner and Blanc, I'm going to see you at my gala. I don't care about no ticket price because you're willing to pay that price to act like you're in Paris when you're in fucking Philly for 2 hours. I don't want to hear it. Okay? Because the events that I do, the galas I throw, support nonprofit organizations, support causes, people, not just a bunch of self-granatory parties. So all these people, there was somebody recently, and I had to drag them. It was somebody that I know very well, and they said something to me like, oh, these ticket prices are crazy. I said, you were just at Dinner and Blanc. The ticket price at Dinner and Blanc is over $100, and you got to bring your own food and stuff. My event's going to have an open bar and food and all that, and you get to just pay your ticket price. So, and it's going to a call. So what the fuck you talking about? Oh, I have to get buck. Sometimes you got to let people know. You got to pop out, you got to show folks, because people will play with you as if you don't be counted. Oh, no, I'm going to remember it. So all the people who that act like they can't go to your galas, your charity calls, and your gifts, remind them that they was willing to drop over $100-something and change and get their asses up and bring tables to go to a non-charity event to support a non-cause outside of just, being somewhere that they think is hot. Like, that's the energy I'm coming with it. Don't tell me this city can't be charitable. If 5,000 people, that's what they said, that's what they're claiming. If 5,000 people can drop money and go to something like that, and not give the charity a cause, then I know my audience. So I'm just looking at the people. I'm taking notes, and I'm doing call outs. When I hear people doing like that, I'm gonna be like, but you went and you spent the money. I don't want to hear about the price. You're gonna pay $150. You and your plus one. Okay, you're paying you $150 a piece for my ticket. My ticket is $150, by the way. But it's an open bar. And the food is fooding, and it comes with food and great people and great networking and love. And it's supporting a lovely nonprofit and a lovely cause. Okay? See how I did that? You see how I did that? Y'all got to do that. Okay? All of my folks that's looking for folks, pay attention to who's going where. I'm taking notes. I'm studying people. Yes, I'm in your bag, and I'm in my bag too. I'm keeping notes because certain folks they do that. They do what is I don't get Philly is so weird and cheap sometimes. Like I don't know, Philly people is just so cheap. I don't like cheap people. I don't. I don't like cheap people. I don't like people that complain about. I think it's tacky when I hear people complain about the price of something out loud. I'm like, if you don't think it's if you because I know I'm in my bed. I'm just being chatty. I have so much to talk about in this show, and you're gonna just bear with me, people. I have so much to say. But I have a pet peeve with cheap people. It's not people that are cheap, like budget wise privately. It's people that in public settings, you go out to a restaurant and they're like talking about the price of something's too high, or they're like everything when they were out or something, they're just like, oh, this is too much. It's like, listen, you came to enjoy yourself. Check the menu before the fuck you get into the restaurant. Okay, we're grown. If there's an invite to go to a restaurant, check the menu before you go to the restaurant. Like, we're not doing this. I'm walking in, I'm seeing these. Like, stop it. Stop signing up to go. If you're that person, check the prices before you go out and play. Because I'm the person that's going to be like, didn't I invite you to this 2 weeks ago? You weren't, what? Like, I'm going to be that person now. I've got it to a point where I see certain things and I'm just like, this is tacky. I'm not going to call a person tacky. I'm not going to be like that. But I'm just going to say certain things. It's going to guide a certain type of conversation. Like, oh, you didn't know anything about this restaurant before you signed up to go? Oh, okay. You didn't know okay. Like, that's just where I'm at. Because I see so much of this now with adults. And it's like always like, I'm going to be quiet. But like older adults, it's like, it's never, like young people, it goes up and down. But it's more like, if people get the right amount of time to prepare or just be aware of what it is, it's less of that from them. But I just find folks that are just cheap. But what I've realized about cheap people, and this is what I'm going to say, because this is where I'm going to get real about this particular thing I believe. Folks will say that people complain about prices because of affordability. That's bullshit. People complain about prices based on what they think is a priority to them. That's what I've learned about cheap people. It's not that they don't have it. Because let's be clear, people who don't have it just don't participate. But I'm talking about people that acquaintances, associates, people that are in my network, I don't necessarily, let me be very clear, my friends are not guilty of this, because it's like, what we doing? Like, no friend of mine. But people who I'm seeing in like certain networking spaces and things, I'm noticed with them, is like, no, it's not that you can't actually afford it. It's that you just don't want to pay that for this thing. I got a situation recently where there's a social group I'm a part of, and we are trying to get certain identical things. And there's one person who doesn't want to get it. They think the price is too high, but arguably I think the price is the regular price. I think it's a reasonable price because I'm actually someone who goes out, spend money, and know what fair rates are. Well, this person just thinks it's too high and they may not get it. The truth of the matter is they're like, oh, they can't afford it. The reality is that it's not a priority to them. And so when people go on trips and people travel, right, you got to be around people. If you do whatever, if you're doing group things, you got to be around people that can prioritize, like understand the priority of something. So for me, if I go out and I travel, which that's why I don't like to travel with people. I don't like to do group. That's why it's just me and Mr. Johnson, because I want to be able to do what, like when I go out and travel, or if I hit spots with people, the only people I like to go traveling with or do something with that I've been comfortable with is my husband and the Lip brothers. That's it. I'm not saying other people, I don't know what other people can do, but I just feel like for over the years, I have felt the most comfortable doing things with the Lip brothers and doing things with Mr. Johnson when it comes to traveling or doing anything like that. Because when I feel like I've tried to lock into other things, I start to realize, oh, my what I would like to do, my expectations gets tampered down because people don't care about the things I care about or share. And that's fine, right? So for me, if I go out, I want to go to nice restaurants. I want to eat good food. Like, I don't want to just, there are some people where food is not a priority. They just like, we'll go to this burger spot and eat here because all they want to do is be on some beach, or they want to be at some nightclub. So they're crazy about the nightlife thing. Me, I'm okay with nightlife, but I'm not like I'm not crazy about going ham on getting a section and spending a bunch of money on a section and bottle service. And I mean, typically I'm invited to a section, but like that's neither here nor there. But like if you, like to me, okay, if you want to do that, that's fine. But then you don't want to go anywhere nice to eat. Like you don't want to do tasting menus. You just want to do that. Okay. But you just know what kind of crowds prioritize things over things. There's some people that want to spend a lot of money on quote unquote activities, which to a certain extent, I'm okay with that. But I like to have a balance, right? So it's just understanding the groups. I've seen people fight during the spring breaks when I was at Penn, where I never really did spring break with friends. I did not. But I've had friends who had horror stories where there was some people that were very much, some people call the word bitchy about going to certain things, doing certain things. It's like, if we can't sit down and come and agree on an itinerary and honor that and respect that and stick to the plan, it's a no for me. So again, because I'm very particular about that, I just like traveling with the Lip Brothers and my husband. It's the easiest. Like when we go out, when we go out and we hit up a spot or do something, we just be on point. We just know. We're like, yes to this. Let's do this. It's just easy. It's no overthinking. It's no, I'm at a point where I'm just like, let's make decisions. Let's honor our decisions. Let's stick to the plan. Let's execute the plan and let's make it happen. Like that's just where I'm at. And so what I've noticed, back to what I was saying, there was this girl that I'm no longer friends with many, many years ago, who was very cheap. And what I realized is that it wasn't that she couldn't afford these things. It's just that what she thought was important to spend money on was different than what the group thought was. So she's the person that would be at the dinner and will order a salad on purpose. And then when the bill's time to split, we ready to just split evenly. She's like, oh, I just got a salad. It's like, see, But then you be the same person that will spend $60-$70 on weed. And again, not judging people, but just like, that's what your priority is. So you got money for that, but you don't want to, have a grown adult dinner with grown ass people. So it's about what people prioritize, like what they would rather invest in. And I wish people would just say that than just try to use the affordability argument. Because what's fucked up about that is that it emotionally fucks with people in the group to try to make them, to make them be like, oh, well, so-and-so can't afford to go to this or do this. So let's and that's what gets people trapped up. What I've learned, it's not that. Unless you're if you're in the planning phases, like let's say if you choose to go on a trip, everybody has a budget, right? Put the budget down early. Let everybody off the grip know what the budget is. And then you create and piecemeal things based off of whatever the budget is, right? But when you get people that are like deep in the throes, where they're committed, clearly they want to turn up, turn up costs money. You want to spend money. Okay. And then they start getting cheap about certain things. It's like, it's not a question about whether they can afford it. They just don't want to do it. So I just want to be around people that want to do the things that I would like to do. Is that the simple way of putting it? And I'm not saying that I'm not bendable or flexible on things, but if you get people that are just very much like, no, they just are not that person to go to certain events, then you just realize, okay, you're not a gala girl. You don't go to galas. It's just not your thing. It's not that you can't afford it. It's just, it's not your thing. You don't see the value in it. Fine. Cool. That's just know what you know and move accordingly. But don't get FOMO. And see, that's the thing. You can't be cheap with FOMO. It's just kind of weird. Like, if you don't want to invest and spend and have a good time, you also cannot be the same person that got the FOMO either. It's priorities. You can't have it all. And that's just the way of life. You cannot have it all. You can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time. I believe in that. I've always, everything that I've wanted, for the most part, I've gotten. I don't get everything all on the same day or the same year, but throughout life, I've been blessed and fortunate. I can be able to say I've gotten the things I wanted with time. So it's possible, but you gotta consider time. So that is that. Um, what are some other things? It's so much. This is a loaded episode in advance, as you can tell. I went to a good friend's uh housewarming party. My good friend Charnay, who's an AKA, of course, and she went to Penn. We went to school together, class of 14. And she had a lovely housewarming party in Philly. Lovely, lovely spot. I love her place. It's beautiful. She has a lovely rooftop, and we just had a lovely rooftop party. And I caught up with a couple of folks that I also went to college with. It was a mini homecoming. It was a bunch of girls. She's AK, so like a lot of the AK girls who went to Penn, who I went to school with, they're all doing lovely and doing fine. It was like a nice catch up, and met some Charnay's other friends, and she's just the sweetest. And I'm really happy she's back in Philly because she was definitely a real one, for sure. I talked about her on when I had my reunion, and she was the one who was giving me the tea. Oh she's just a doll. I'm looking forward to hanging out with her and all of my friends. You're gonna see more of her in the mix because she's back. It's just so nice when you can catch up with a person that you was cool with in college, and it almost feels as if you're back at where you were versus like some people you haven't seen in a long time. It's almost like they've changed so much that you don't their whole ideas and who they are. But we are like, I mean, we've grown in our professions and our career, but our value system and understanding of things have been pretty solid, and I love that. So it's almost like there wasn't too much to catch up on. We kind of just got back into the groove, and so she's a sweetheart, and her sisters are too. And so I'm just so happy that I have more friends coming into the mix that I love and trust. So she's sweet. So I look forward to hang out with her more. But it was a great housewarming party. We played spades. Oh my God. Well, she didn't play spades. But one of her sisters can play spades. And I love playing spades. It is my guilty habit. I love spades. If anybody knows how to play spades, I am a spades man. And there's some people that don't like to play. They always like worried about argument. Child, life is an argument. Like, get over it. Like, you listen. There's some people I know that be like, oh, I'm scared to play spades. But listen, everybody matures and grows. Okay, we can't keep talking about what spades was like 6, 5, 7 years ago. Like, we get better at it, and you just know how to play better. So I know how to play spades. It's not an argument for me. I don't argue. I'm not the argument guy. Spades. I like to play with people that know how to play because reneging is just not a thing really, which is beautiful. Like the people I played with spades, everybody just know how to play. Like we just have to make sure we establish the rules up front because everybody plays it differently. And then once you do that, and once everybody know how we play, once you go, you go. And so we won. We had a spades tournament, or as people say in Philly, tournament. But we had a spades tournament, and me and my partner, we were the champions. We won. We went through several rounds, and we won. We won the championship. But there wasn't much argument. It was just a fun game. And it was a fun series because people knew what they were doing. I feel like it could get argumentative if you're dealing with a person who just don't know what they're doing. And it's like, okay, you don't know how to play and your partner is really a passionate partner. It can get a little tense. But nowadays, I just am asking people up front, do you know how to play? Okay, yes, come. You're trying to learn? Maybe not with me. Maybe you got to go learn with somebody who is got the patience. It's just different routes. Because it's so I like to say what I love to see at card game situations is that the people that know how to play spades are pros. Sit here. People that want to teach people, give them another box of cards and like kind of do that. Like it's like having a big ass pool and a kiddie pool. The kiddie pool, y'all go over there, or if you go to like skating rinks. I mean, those are like a dying art nowadays. But like I used to love roller rinks and skating rinks, right? You know how there was like always like the small kiddie area for people that don't know how to skate. And then, of course, the main ones for people that knew how to skate backwards, forwards, and all that. I was that person. Like, I know how to roller skate. Like, I love skating. But there are people who don't, right? You put them in the kiddie area. One of the things that used to annoy me when I was younger was, like, when people would get on roller skates and skate in the main area and be like, oh my God, they're so scared they're going to get crashed too. Get the fuck off of the rink for your safety purposes and mine. The worst ever. Like, don't come over there. And it was always like the guy who I have their girlfriend and like try to like, no, do not try to teach her on the big rink. Take her to the kiddie rink. It's okay. There's a lot of grown ass people over there, trying to learn how to skate. That's it. Like, unless it's Drake over there trying to learn how to skate at the rink, I mean, then it's fine. But like, get people to, just no lanes. No lanes, people. No lanes. Avoid harm reduction is key to 2024. Avoid harm. Avoid it at all costs. So I'm just being real. But we played. It was a great time, great drinks, great food. Oh my God, that housewarming party exceeded my expectations. The party started at 3, but I came around 4:30. I mean, because it's a Black housewarming party. Y'all know how this goes. The party was supposed to be over. It was from 4 to like, it was from 3 to 7, I think. Child, we left that house around 11 o'clock. That's just how much it was a vibe. The food was fooding. The drinks were drinking. We had a beautiful time. Like, that's a housewarming party. That's a party. I didn't have a housewarming party. I just kind of brought everybody upstairs to my roof and was just like, come through. And my birthday party was kind of like my housewarming party. I didn't need any gifts. She didn't need any either, actually. That was the funny part. I got her some really great wine. She drinks red wine like me. She's a Libra like me. We're just connected. But she drinks red wine because never white. And so I got her these 2 red wine bottles that I had got from my collection. I have a wine subscription, and I was like, what do I want to sacrifice for Chardonnay? And she's probably listening. It's like, I sacrificed this South African Merlot that I had and another popular, like, what was it? Not Sonoma. Was it Sonoma? Yeah. It was a Sonoma red that I had that I also liked, but I sacrificed an International red and a Sonoma red for her. And she seemed very excited. She didn't drink it because she knew. See, she's a smart one. I was like, oh, you could pop the bottle. She's like, mm-mm. See, she's smart. It was funny because there was people that was giving her red wine, I believe, but they weren't like my red wines. And so it was like, yeah, I could pop a bottle with Josh red wine, of course. But you're not going to pop that one. You're going to say that for something else. She's smart. I see what she was doing. I was like, oh, you know what you're doing. Because that's me. Like, I'm at my party. When people be giving me certain bottles, like, I love, like, Veuve. And so if I get a Veuve or Monet, a Moet or whatever, or Monet, I'm not opening those bottles. Okay? But if you pop up to my place with, like, well, first of all, you're not coming to my place with a cupcake Prosecco. That's just not happening. But if you come with like La Maria or whatever the other one is that everyone likes, I call it the blue baby shower Prosecco because when I was growing up, when I was, when I was in college, I remember every baby shower I went to, the blue bottles was like, because it was a boy, so they would get the blue bottles of that Prosecco, and it was like the light blue baby blue. So I always called it the baby shower Prosecco because it was also very affordable. It's very cheap. But it had that notorious blue. And I remember the girls, their baby showers. And y'all know I'm going to butcher the name. But you know what I'm talking about. I think it's called La Maricola. But you all know it is that Prosecco bottle with that light blue, like, print on it. I used to always, like, get my life. When I was younger, I used to always drink it. But if you bring me something like that, yeah, I'll pop that on site. But if you bring me some Veuve or you bring me some... Oh my God, something about me, a Dom Perignon. I'll never forget. Oh, I love her. She's such a great woman. I know who got me that. And we had dinner as a Havre. Oh, I was spoiled, honey. It was one of my mentors. Got me a bottle of Dom Perignon, and we was having dinner as a Havre. Listen, the life I live, blessings. But I didn't pop that until I got my book deal. I remember where I popped it. I was at Pizzeria Badia after I signed my first book deal. Lovely. It was 6 figures. I wanted to celebrate. We went to Pizzeria Badia. It was Sharon. It was Jamarcus. It was Mr. Johnson. Lauren came. And we was there. And we had the private room, the hoagie room. We had the private room. And they let me bring a bottle. Because normally they don't let you bring a bottle. But because, Badia, man, he was looking out for a fella. It was a special occasion. I said, let me say something. What I'm bringing in here, you ain't got no champagne here I want to buy. This is the one. He let me bring my bottle. It was worth it. And we popped that Dom Perignon and we celebrated. So I have a bottle that I want to pop when B2 gets ready. We gonna be quiet. B2. I'm getting excited about B2. I'm just gonna say that B2. I'm getting excited. We doing some things, but I can't say anything more about that. But anyway, I got a bottle in mind that I want to pop for that. However, if somebody gets a Dom Perignon bottle for me, any of my lovely folks, I will pop that bottle in your name. And if you're close friend, you'll definitely be there when I pop it, because we'll go somewhere nice and I'm gonna have a big old to-do over this. So, stay tuned, but I'm super excited. Long story short, the housewarming was fabulous and love her to death. So Sunday supper, with Mr. Johnson was fabulous. We barely cook at home. So when we do at this point now, it's always special. It was a lovely lamb dinner with a bottle of Syrah, which I love Syrah. It just goes good with lamb. And I had a good time because I got to put in a decanter. We had decanted wine. I have so much red wine, y'all, but I love my wine. So I'm not, but I really love my red wine. And I had Syrah with it because it pairs really well with the lamb. Risotto. It was fabulous. It was a romantic dinner. We had something to celebrate because I'm going to tell you what we had to celebrate in a minute. But how do I want to go into this? Okay, I want to go into this post I made on Facebook real quick, and then we're going to get into the hot topics and everything else. So I did a post over the weekend just about observations that I've been noticing and coming to terms with as a young professional, relatively young professional at 32. What I've been noticing has been that, I've talked about a lot about different clashes I've had lately and things, talking about, NABJ and all that with PABJ, just dealing with industry people in general. And one of the things I've realized, and it's really hit me lately, and I wanted to drop this wisdom here in conversation, talk about more in depth, is that I really, there's a lot of people, older folks in the industry, that are, how do I put this? They're dealing with midlife crisis. The journalism media industry I'm in, and let me be very clear, what I'm about to say is applicable to a lot of industries. So I want to be very clear that, if you find value in what I'm talking about right now or whatever, understand that I'm speaking from, again, I like to speak and use I statements about the particular space I'm in, but I can see this being applicable to various industries. I've heard people tell me labor, corporate, whatever. So take this and apply it to whatever respective industry you're in, if it's applicable. But in media, specifically journalism, a lot of the median age of the professionals, the main folks that are doing this work, a lot of them are in their 40s, early 50s, a lot of them who are prominent. And in my particular arena, at my level, I am like a Swansea Rowan, where, the actress who was in Lady Bird, this woman has multiple Oscar nominations, and she's barely 30. I don't even think she's 30. She's an incredible actress, and she's 30 years old. Yeah, she just turned 30 in April. But she's an incredible actress, Saoirse Ronan. She was in Little Women. She was in The Lovely Bone. She was in Atonement. She was in Lady Bird. She was in Brooklyn. She's won several Oscar nominations. She's incredible. She just turned 30 this year. But this young lady, has 4 Academy Award nominations before 30 years old. She has 5 British Academy Award nominations. She's won a Golden Globe. And she just turned 30. Baby girl has been doing it for half her life. She got an Oscar nomination when she was 14 years old, I believe. like one of the youngest to be nominated. So, I find her to be awesome. But she's, she auditioned for the role. She was 12 years old when she was in the film. I believe she got the nomination around 13 years old, something like that. But incredible, right? She's in an industry where most of the women who that is in her pedigree, right? The big Oscar women, Meryl Streep's, the Natalie Portman's, the Julianne Moore's, right? These are women who are in their 40s, 50s, and even older for Meryl Streep. She's in an industry with a lot of leading women that are much older than her. And to a certain extent, she's very talented, but she's also does not have that many peers. When I think about myself in my respective industry, I don't have that many peers, especially when I think about Philly, right? There's not that many young Black journalists that I'm in the same space with, especially as a writer. There are some, but there's not too many, and not too many at my level per se, right? So I'm oftentimes in rooms with people that are in their mid 40s and their 50s and much older. Like, those are my colleagues, respectively, based on my awards, my achievement, my leadership that I've displayed in the industry. My core group is not people in their 30s like myself. They're actually people much older than me. And while in some ways that is flattering, in a lot of ways it comes with a lot of paternalism and a lot of microaggressions. And it's interesting, like when people speak my name in conversations, they're oftentimes saying it alongside of people like Simon Jones, Janice Armstrong, other folks like that has been around. They're not saying my name with, I don't know who the other young person is really, but they're not putting me in that same conversation based on my level. That's a blessing. It's cool. It's all that. But it comes with just these awkward and unfortunate clashings that I couldn't understand for a while. But now, as I've gotten a little bit older and also just, reading more, understanding it, a lot of these people, I'm in a room where my career is on the horizon and a lot of their careers about to sunset to a certain degree, or they're hitting a certain wall and they're having a midlife crisis, not just with their career, but just with their overall sense. And so I've taken some time to understand like boomers and Gen Xers and like how there is a generational difference here in views and values, but also how it shifts in like how people project. And so for a while, when I first started, I was quote unquote beefing with auntie and uncle. Like I was having I was like feeling like, Nikki was with Lil' Kim. I was like, I'm the new kid on the block and, it's a battle. But then I realized, one, I'm not beefing with grandpapa and grandpa. Like there's some people that really think they're in competition with me. And I'm like, why do you even see me that way? What are we doing here, right? But then I started to look at the economy and I began to look at just generational issues. And while I give the boomers and the Gen Xers credit for doing some phenomenal things in society, they've done some great milestones. One of their worst habits ever, and one of the things I believe millennials and Gen Zers are trying to dismantle, is that they identify with their work. And that is why they have these midlife crises. They have a midlife crises because they identify with their work. Their positions and titles at companies is their identities. Like they don't have an actual sense of personal being and identity or branding of who they are and themselves outside of what they do. They don't know how to separate that. And so, because it takes a lot of time, and also, you have to give a fuck about what people think, right? And they care a lot about what people think about them. They're so caught up in appearances. They're so caught up in that publicness. And every generation has this, but they really are. Because their whole lives, they're molded into this idea of respectability and success, and everything's measured to that. And I often recognize where they get these nasty habits from. So for them, though, when they see people, it's kind of rude, or they're like, what do you do? Where do you work? They are very big on what do you do for a living and where's your stature? Because they're trying to measure you based off of that, which is an inaccurate stature. it's one of those things where we often hear them talk where when millennials and Gen Zers are having conversations about personalities and toxic culture, they don't know what to say about that. They typically deviate to things like, well, I'll give you an example. I'll give you several examples. Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of Tyler Perry. Like, his movies are problematic. You know, they're not good quality. Well, you can say all that, but he's giving people jobs and he's a billionaire. What the fuck does that have to do with his personality and quality? They have no separation, respectfully, of separating personality with posture. That's why Trump gets elected, because they voted for Trump. Let's be clear. A lot of that generation voted for Trump in some ways because they're not looking at personality. They're not looking at value systems. They're caught up in the shiny things because they believe, they do believe in this American dream of, if you work hard, if you do this, then that's how you got this. And that's a very fucked up classist mentality because it also feeds into the elitism because they come from the 80s, right? The yuppie generation, right? Where they believe in that type of mentality that if you work hard, then you got your success. You know, they don't understand nepotism. They don't really understand like systemic oppression, like that to some extent people got things because they cheated. People got things because of, you know, privilege. Like, those things don't exist to them. Like, let me be very clear. They know about these things, and some of them do. But overall, the vast majority of these Gen Xers and Boomers, and you know how I know that they believe in this logic? Because their logic on labor sucks, right? That people vacation. They don't know how to take vacations. They don't know how to say no. They're fearful of this. They don't like to pivot from careers. And we're going to get to why, right? But a lot of this risk aversion and this is based on an idea to keep a framing. Because if your identity is based on your work, then to lose your work is to lose your identity to those people. Which is why you often hear them act like they lost the dog when they lost the job. Like, they're not even worried about losing the job based on their means, but they're losing the job for their identity. Because, I was the executive director at this place for 10 years. So, you know, if I'm not the executive director, then do I matter? Because that's how they judge each other. They're very cruel and cold when it comes to this, where, you're not the executive director anymore? Well, we're going to stop inviting you in the room. You don't matter anymore to them. Like, you don't get on this list. They care about this shit. Like, they really obsess over titles and positioning. And if they don't have those things, they feel like they're irrelevant. And they don't care about building meaningful relationships that's built on respect, because power for them is earned by fear. It's not really earned by admiration. They never put thought into, okay, let me be nice and people like me and be kind. And essentially people will work with me wherever I go and work with me. It's very much like, no, I come in the room as the boss with this and with that. And then people acknowledge and then people give me these things. But the dirtiness about that is you recognize you're perpetuating the same problem that on the back end leads to the depression and leads to the midlife crisis. Which is why you often hear people in their 40s and 50s talking about rebranding. Well, if you actually knew who the fuck you were and actually spent time on your personal brand and who you want to be as a person, avoid of titles, you wouldn't have to rebrand yourself. Because the rebrand is kind of counterproductive if it just means finding a way to get another job, to get another title, to get back in the room with the same motherfuckers who are cutthroat and backstabby. And these are the same people that then wonder why their children, which are millennials and Gen Zers, don't want to play those games. We don't want to play those games because we saw how the game played with you all. So rather than trying to be a seat at the table, we said, fuck that. We're just going to build our own table. Like, we're tired of being in the room if the room is toxic. We will just rather create our own rooms. We just rather, like, figure out how to do it without having to compromise ourselves. Like, we have been seeing all of these stories of boomers and Gen Xers now telling me two stories, now telling us all the things they had to do to get into the industry. And it's like, well, wait a minute. If that's what you had to do, why would you want me to have to play that same game? Shouldn't we be revolutionaries and change the game? Like, shouldn't we do this differently? And so I think about 10 years ago, when I was just starting an industry, a lot of these people who are now having midlife crisis, now struggling with their identity, now having these external, internal, existential crises about what they want to do with their lives and careers. 10 years ago, these are the people that told me, shut up and just play the game. Do what they say. You got to make a sacrifice. Do this, do that. And I did not do that because I didn't feel comfortable to. And they judged me for it. And now they're telling their own stories. Now they're having regrets. Now they're having buyer's remorse about the type of career they went into. And now they want to tell everybody in the world. But the reality is that we got to change the cycle to which you get in a predicament like that. You can't change the outcome of something if you haven't moved past the predicament of the thing. And so I'm seeing a lot of people have this type of midlife crisis where they're struggling with their identities outside their work. I will say the blessing about my journey is that I've always been big on having a personality, having a sense of self beyond where I worked and where my brands are, because I knew very early that those roles are going to change. Titles are going to change. Positions are going to change. Some are going to move up. Some are going to fall back. But I don't want to be connected to one particular corporate brand where my identity is there. Because at the end of the day, you want to be your own person. And so I love that I did that for myself. Like, I love that when people see me, they don't just go automatically, oh, he's just the eater person. That's all we're going to get is food reviews from Ernest. That's it. Or he's the political guy. All he talks about is politics. We're just going to hear politics from him. Or he's that Philly mag. So he's a Philly mag guy. Like, no, I have a bigger identity than. And I know there are people that I see, oh my God, it annoys me when Gen Xers do this. Like, they love to hook me with a title to something because they just really so badly think that flashy title is going to matter or something. No one gives I don't give a fuck. Let me be clear. I care about the work that I do. I care about the impact that I make, but I am not beholden to feeling like I got to name drop my profession and every single dynamic as a way to get a certain level of respect. Now, if you are in a space where, let me be clear about that now, if you're in an industry space where you're out working and you're at a conference and you're a doctor, yeah, you need to let people know you're a doctor because you don't want them talking to you like, you're someone else. And so let's be clear, in certain settings, yeah, that makes sense. But just in general, like going out to events, just hanging out, I just notice there's a lot of careerism that just irks me sometimes. I'm just like, we don't got to do all that. Like, I mean, if in conversation, someone asks, oh, let me know, they want to get to know you more, it's cool. But just the days of just walking in somewhere and just being like, I'm this, it's like walking resume. It's just so, oh my goodness. It's just tacky. And there's people that just do that. I remember, like, in college, that was a thing because in college, everybody was trying to figure themselves out and figure out what their identity was. And so it made sense in college for people to feel like their identities were connected to where they were branded or where they were interning, what they were studying. I get it. But once you get out in the world, work and live and make your money and do your thing, a lot of that stuff just becomes so like obsolete. It really do. Like, I will tell you, there are some people in this city that are great lawyers, but they're fucking creeps and they're vultures and they're vampires and they're nasty people. There's some people out here that are entrepreneurs that they got great business models. They know how to develop and they was on the Forbes 30 under 30 list like I was, but they're just trash ass individuals who are unfaithful to their wives and girlfriends and they're cheaters, they're liars, and they're just fucked up individuals with problems. And I'm just like, I don't give a fuck what investment venture plan you're doing. You're just a trash ass person. And so at a certain point, I remind people, it just goes back to what kind of person you really are in real life. Like, titles and roles change. When I started in this business, I was working at a free paper, but you know what? I had a lot of personality and I was a very honest guy and I was cool and people could rock with that. And so whether I was at, Metro or Rolling Stone or wherever, right? my personality and my values carried me throughout my career. I didn't have to sleep with anyone to get to the top. I didn't have to lie or steal to get my way to the top. I just had to be patient and just be myself. And so that is something that I just want to tell some of my older listeners, like, y'all got to get off of that because it's killing y'all. It literally is. Like, it's killing you all. It really is. Like, the whole identity around career and profession alone. Like, yes, I am a journalist. Yes, I am a lot of other things. But you know what? I'm just cool. And I love the fact that while people do appreciate the work that I do, they talk about my personality. They talk about other aspects of me that is beyond that. Like, I love how y'all talk about how I keep my skincare together. Like, I love that y'all think I'm a baddie with my face together. Like, oh, one thing about him. I love that people, when they talk about me, when they see me, they talk about how I smell good. I really do care about my hygiene. But people say that all the time and say, oh, he smell good. Like, I love that that's become a common conversation. Because my girl Rihanna, every time people talk about Rihanna, they say, oh, she smells good. Every time they talk about Rihanna, like, oh, she smells good. I just love that. Like, I live for compliments that have nothing to do sometimes about the work. Like, people can say, oh, yeah, you know, he smell good. Oh, my goodness, he keeps his nails, he has some nice-ass nails. He has a nice smile. Like, I just think other aspects about people we should get to that. Yes, it's nice that people have great careers and they're boss and stuff. But if we only fixate on career alone and we don't talk about other aspects, that's how we see people like Diddy thrive in a career. Because Diddy was a horrible person, is a horrible person. But because Diddy was the CEO of this and that, that's why people like him got away with it. I mean, are y'all noticing a pattern are y'all picking up what I'm putting down here? Like, we perpetuate the same problems that we are trying to fix by upholding the same standards that don't work for us. These standards do not serve us. We have to let go of these types of ways, right? I'm not saying that positions and titles and things don't matter, but they should not be the only thing that matter. How about that? So consider that. That's something that stuck with me. And then DNC. A lot of you all have been asking me why I have not been to DNC. And I'm ready to tell you all, you know, for starters, I didn't go to the DNC this year because personally, I'm just not trying to go to a bunch of large crowds. I get it's historic, but every DNC can arguably be historic since Hillary. Well, really since Obama, shall. But, you know, I just, you know, I was already in Chicago. I just feel like sometimes I'm just like, okay, everyone's there. Because I'm just at this point where if I go to certain things, I become the bait rather than looking for bait, meaning that more people are going to come up and bother me more than I'm going to come up and bother them. Like, in other words, I'm going to be poached more than I'm going to be doing the poaching. And for me, that gets exhausting very fast, where you go somewhere and you're going to see a bunch of people and they're going to want things from you and they're going to bug you and it's going to be all of that. And it's like, do I have that battery in me right now? Or do I want to, like, I just am at a point where I'm measuring all of that. Also, you know, I want to put myself in spaces that are going to fulfill me. And people typically assume what fulfills me. Well, you're going to learn a lot about me, y'all. I guess I'm unpredictable, but you're going to learn that I'm not the type that's going to be check box. I'm very different. Don't stop telling me about what other people are doing. Stop comparing me because I'm incomparable. Like, don't tell me so-and-so there. Okay. That's them. That's not me. Like, I'm on a different journey with how I do this because I've seen patterns and I'm trying to break the cycle. You all are not paying attention to patterns. If everybody is doing the same thing, I am going to always go a different direction if it makes sense career-wise. I'm never going to put myself in one bubble or one trap. There's always going to be various ways that I want to engage and do things. And that's how I've maintained longevity. A lot of your faves were hot here, hot then, not hot now, because they don't pivot. They don't understand how to mix it up and not fall into certain traps, especially traps that don't necessarily serve you. For me, to be frank, going to the DNC at the capacity to which I would have been going was not going to serve a purpose for me. And I'm going to talk more about that later on the show, but in the show, because clearly this is going to be a super episode because I miss you all and you all miss me. But it was not going to serve me in the way in which I would have wanted it to. And so I'm just not going to be somewhere just to be somewhere. Because there's people out there flying down to the DNC with like no money in their account. That's not my story, but somebody else I know being like, oh, I just want to go and cover it. But it's like, what are you covering? Like, who are you covering for? Why is the outlet that you're contributing to not helping you with your travel? You're just there because you want to say you're there. Okay, well, great, you're there. But like at the end of the day, you could be doing other things. So I'm going to tell you all that, if you're listening, you're a core listener on a Monday, you know that at this Monday, while you're listening to the show, I'm packing up and getting myself ready to go to Dallas, Texas. Why am I going to Dallas, Texas? Because Dr. Phil has flew me out to go on his show. He has a brand new show called Dr. Phil Primetime that is airing on various stations on TV, and he's got an online proponent. And he has reached out to me. Dr. Phil has reached out, his team. They have flown me out to Dallas. I am going to be in Dallas Monday. I'm going to be in Dallas enjoying some good old Texas barbecue. And I like that I've been in Dallas multiple times because I know where things are and what's happening. So I'm going to have a really good time. But I'm going to be in Dallas on Monday. I'm taping on Tuesday. I am going to tease you all. Not you all, because you all know the secret now. But I'm going to be trolling on the internet, as you all know. I love the tease. I didn't have, okay, so 5 years ago, you all know Oprah flew me out to LA. And, of course, I interviewed her. And that was before this podcast. And so I did this thing where back then, I was 5 years ago, in August, life is so funny. Here I am 5 years now going to see Dr. Phil. What's interesting is that I didn't have a podcast then. So you all know how this go. You all know, you're listening. You're going to see me troll on Monday. You're going to see me troll up until Tuesday because, I don't want to jinx myself, but I'm at this point it's happening. But pretty much what my plan will be is I will reveal when I'm at the studio. When I'm on Tuesday, we're going to film on Tuesday. Monday, I'm coming in a day early to relax, get settled, all of that jazz. And then Tuesday, we're going to be taping, and then I'm going to fly back to Philly that night, Tuesday night. So you are the first to know this outside, of course, Mr. Johnson and my family. But yeah, Dr. Phil hit me up, and this was very fast. This actually happened like a week ago. I'm going to be on the show to talk about my book, The Case for Cancel Culture. And the show is on cancel culture, and I'm going to be serving as an expert on 3 individuals that are impacted by cancel culture, or claim to be. Let's just say that. I won't tell you who they are. I don't want to tell the show. I don't want to get too much caught. I don't want to tell too much. The show will air late September, early October. When it do, of course, I'm going to tell you the date. Of course, I'm going to make sure you get to watch it, of course. But it's a great episode in the works. I'm excited. I'm going to bring myself to it. I'm excited. This is like a major TV show. I'm at a studio. Like I get flued out. Because at first, I don't know if they was going to do like a little bit of Zoom or whatever. No, I'm going to be on a set. So dress code. There's like all types of clothing, things I got to look out for the camera, which has been interesting. So like if you're expecting me to wear something very colorful, I'm telling y'all right now, it's not going to be all that fabulous on that front. Because on cameras like that, they like darker colors. They want things to be more solid. So I'm going to definitely be dressing a lot more conservative for the camera's sake. So, I just want to give y'all that heads up. But I'm bringing different types of wardrobes and things so we can plan accordingly. But I'm super excited. This is exciting. I mean, I'm staying at a very, very nice hotel. And I'm out here. Here we are over a year later. The first book is still getting traction. Like, I'm like, how did Dr. Phil find out? Listen, it's because of people like you. Thank you. People that are consistently talking about it. People that are, me sharing the book, me keeping it on my profile photos and referencing it. And, I think going on Piers Morgan played a role in that to some degree. Just consistently making sure that this book has been in the conversation. And now we find ourselves on a Dr. Phil program. So I'm excited. It is definitely a cool, surprising experience. I did not see, they're like, how did this happen? My agent called me, was like, Dr. Phil wants you to come. I was like, excuse me, Doctor who? What? This is a joke. No, it was real. Because let me say this: there are people, there are spams and corrupt like producers at people that pretend they're producers and stuff like that, and club promoters that are scamming people to get appearances and stuff. I've heard a lot about that. Um, in my situation, this was all legit. Like they hit my agent up, bookings. Dr. Phil wanted me to send them a video. I did. Like everything was good. So I'm excited. I'm very excited to do this, to be on this show. I know Dr. Phil is a very controversial individual, but that's the thing about me. I want to be in different spaces. Like my goal is to have an impact that's just bigger than just a certain crowd. If you all have noticed that in my whole brand, I've never been shy to go into different types of spaces, because if I really want to educate people, you want to educate people, or you want to be in this position where you can be able to provide context in spaces that don't have it, right? If I'm only loved by progressives, which they can't take my ass sometimes too, child, I'm doing my job, y'all. But if progressives are the only ones that like what I talk about or listen to me or know who I am, I'm doing this job wrong. Like, I enjoy being on Piers Morgan, where a different crowd of people are exposed to my book, exposed to what I'm talking about, my ideas. They can find common ground. They may not find common ground, but they've heard a perspective, right? Going on Dr. Phil's show, I know that there's going to be a different group of people, on this new show. It's called Dr. Phil Primetime, not the daytime show. But there's a different group of people that are going to be exposed to my way of thinking on this topic. And they might find common ground. They might be able to learn something different and can talk about it. And the book is going to get the exposure. So I kind of love that. That's exciting to me. So while a lot of my peers are going to the DNC and they're going to hobnob with liberals, I'm going on a Dr. Phil show to talk about my book. It's fulfilling for me. So I'm excited, y'all. I've been holding this in for the past several days. I was like, you know what? I'm going to play with listen. So you all will be in on the fun. I'm going to do my IG story. I'm going to play around with it. I got a black car picking me up from the airport. I'm going to play along with it and just be like real mysterious. And I'm not going to tell anybody what I'm doing until I'm ready to. And then you'll know, because on Tuesday, I'll drop the picture and do the little I'm going to have fun with it. Like, I love this. This reminds me of like with Oprah, like everybody's like, why are you in LA? What the hell's going on? They didn't know what was going on. And then boom, I'm with Oprah, right? So I'm going to have fun. I'm going to do this with Dr. Phil. I'm going to be like, surprise. But I'm just going to tell people, when they're like, well, why you did something? Because it wasn't for you to know. I have business, baby. This is it's a bag. I have business to do. I have a reason why I'm here. I'm not here to hang out. I'm here to do business, yeah. So surprise. I'm excited. So let's get into these hot topics. Wow. We're just now getting to hot topics. Okay. Clearly it's gonna be a super episode, but you love it. I love it too. People are getting ready for the DNC, like I brought up earlier. This DNC is interesting. So Monday, Biden is speaking, which is the earliest. I know he's used to speaking on Thursday, but now he's speaking on Monday, the first day of the DNC, which is very anticlimactic to a certain degree. But he's speaking on Monday. He's going to give his speech. Then former President Barack Obama is speaking on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, Tim Walz, vice presidential pick Tim Walz, and former President Bill Clinton are speaking. And then the last night, of course, Vice President Kamala Harris is speaking, as she will officially and publicly accept the nomination and become the first Black woman, first South Asian woman to ever have this. The first woman ever was Hillary Clinton, but she'll be the first woman of color to ever have this moment. And so we're super excited. I'm super excited. DNC gonna be good vibes. I think that this is definitely not gonna be the RNC. There's been rumors about celebrities performing and who's doing what. We'll see. I'm tired of y'all putting Beyonce's name in y'all mouth and Beyonce not showing, okay? So we just got to stop that. Like, I'm so sick of that. Like, the only time there was a leak that made sense was when they said Beyonce was going to open up the Oscars, which made sense because she was nominated for an Oscar, and I knew Beyonce was not going to not perform, given that was her first night. Like, no one's going to, like, the Academy Awards, I mean, the way that those ratings are set up and that platform, Like Beyonce will perform. I feel like Beyonce is at a point in her career where she will perform at the Oscars faster than she'll perform at the Grammys or the Video Music Awards. Like I feel like she wants to be in unconventional spaces. Like I could see her performing at the Country Music Awards faster at this point. Like the Olympics, she did the opening ceremonies, video thing. Like I feel like that's where she wants to be in uncharted territory. I see that for her. I like that for her. And I think that's kind of even where I'm at. Like, I don't want to be at all the predictable places. I want to be different spaces. And so, I mean, the DNC would be that for her technically. But, again, we don't know. And if she doesn't, don't be surprised. If she do, be shocked. I mean, let's just be real. So I just, yeah, that's my thoughts on that aspect of it. But, the DNC is doing a lot this year to get influencers and creators. And there's been a lot of, I feel like, shabbiness with some of that because there's a lot of content producers that you're going to see. Folks, you're going to be like, how they go into the DNC? Honestly, this is for people who just wanted to get the credentials. They had the money to fly out. They had the budget and money to go, but they didn't have the access. And so with the access gives them invitations to certain parties and things. So there is a classist angle to this where like a lot of the diverse influence that we know, they're not going because one, they don't have the budget to spend, 5 something days in a hotel. Because let me be clear, the DNC is not paying for all these influencers to come. Some of them, the top ones, the real top ones, are got the budget where they can spend 5 hotel rooms, get hotels, 5 nights in a hotel, and pay for air travel and do all that. A lot of these influencers that we know don't. Some of the bigger names might be getting paid, but they're not coming from out of Philly. Let's just keep them 100. But a lot of these people that you're going to see that's saying they're creating content for the DNC, I'm going to call cap on this because it's like, yes, they have social media following. Yes, the DNC did invite a lot of people to come. But the truth of the matter is that it's really glorified sense of like, they're trying to raise the visibility to tap into young voters. They're really trying to get the millennials and Gen Zers on TikTok and these places to be excited and to be there. And so they're making an investment in giving these people more access. But let's be very clear. Most of those people, I would say 90% of the people that you're going to see understand that they're not really the most prominent influencers if you're seeing them from our city. Because I know there's some people in Philly that's going. I'm just like, but this is I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to be very mindful. I'm going to be very demure. But I'm being real here. A lot of these people that you're going to see, you're going to say, how the hell they go? Because honestly, they gave out those credentials like hotcakes. It was so disrespectful. There was actually a moment where somebody reached out to me and was like, do you want to go as an influencer? I said, excuse me? What? I'm a journalist. And could I have gotten media credentials to go? Yes. But the reality is that unless there is like, again, for me, it's like, I am not going to put the burden on any place to put a hotel. Like, I don't need to be there all day. Like, I just don't find going to the DNC for all 4 days unless you are like a national correspondent. Like, you're literally going to be getting paid to produce something every day, which there are some national outlets that are, right? To be honest, some people are going for the clout. I get it. It's a clout chasing moment. And if you want to spend that money, get the hotels, do that, and invest in that to clout chase, to act like you're something more than you are, have at it, my dear. I just had better use of my time this week. I was like, I'm not going to give a whole week to this and everything else. Because technically, if I would have done that, I would have missed the Dr. Phil. Blessings become in disguise. Because let me be very clear. I was not going to the DNC at all. I've been told people I was not going. And that was before Dr. Phil called. But let me be very clear. That is funny because I would have been pissed the fuck off if I would have been in Chicago already, bought the flights, did the shit, had everything booked, and then Dr. Phil would have been calling. I would have been pissed. Okay? Heated. So that's why I always say sometimes things work in mysterious ways that you just don't know how it's going to play out. And then here we are. So let me just say I'm very happy that things play out the way they played out. I'm very happy for that. I like that for me. I like that for everybody involved. I'm very happy that was my reality. Just want to put that out there. So anyway, Yeah, what I was gonna say. Yeah, I'm happy that I planned things the way I planned it. But the DNC, there's gonna be a lot of cap. Okay, just expect that. Folks, it's like, oh, I'm at the DNC. I was invited to. It's like, child. Let me just tell y'all the insider. There was a lot of these influencer-esque invitations going out, like basic forms, where they just really want to get somebody's in there. And the people that had the money to pay to go to be the influencer, they're going to get invited to a couple of these events. They'll be at the DNC, but they're basically creating content. The DNC is not paying them, by the way. They're not getting paid. Like, none of this is paid, but it's a flex. And there's a certain publicist in this town that they are a publicist. They represent, do PR for a lot of folks, but they also, I feel like, are having like this, I don't know how to describe it, but maybe a midlife crisis where they want to be an influencer and a publicist at the same time. Respectfully, they do a decent job being a publicist. That's what they should do. Being an influencer is kind of weird because it's like, well, if you're a publicist and you have access to various spaces and clients and people, when you make your content based off of clients that are paying you to do PR, to me, that's not a real influencer because you're not actually getting it for the muscle. You're basically doing glorified marketing for a firm and for a group that you work for. So you're not really getting a holistic viewpoint of opportunities and express, because a lot of it is geared towards what is paying you by your client versus being an influencer. You're getting exposure to various brands, various things, and you're letting everybody know about everything outside of the things that particularly pay you or is in competition with the brands you represent. So it's a real huge fucking conflict of interest, and it's just very disingenuous. I don't want to call it unethical, but it does have some ethical issues there, in my opinion. And it's a little tacky. Well, it's a lot of tacky. But again, when you're somebody that's middle-aged and you're going through an identity crisis and you're trying to figure out what to do with yourself, it makes sense that you're in this weird clusterfuck of like trying to be everything for everybody when you should just kind of stick to the job and business that pays you. That's my take. But yeah, it's a lot of capping that's going to happen at the DNC. The DNC is not the Democratic National Convention, it's the Democratic National Capping. There's going to be a lot of that capping. To be honest, focus on what the candidates are saying. Hear what the elected officials are saying. Listen to the people that are actually speaking in the speeches. All the other shit that's going on in shenanigans, it's just manufactured hype. I get it, though. Whatever to win this election, November 5th, but just be mindful of the cap. With Kamala, Vice President Kamala Harris, there's been a lot of people talking about how she has not been talking to the press yet. To be honest, I don't think she needs to right now. As a journalist, I'm not pressed for her to speak to me right now. And there's a reason why. Because for starters, I get why. Because the media plays a game. And as somebody that's a part of the press and a part of the media, I know the game. I get her strategy. Vice President Harris is not going to talk to the press until after the DNC. People are saying that she's enjoying her honeymoon phase before there's a lot of criticisms about things. Her economic policy that she just dropped that includes giving newborns families a $6,000 tax credit for newborn babies, which is kind of awesome. People are saying there's a lot of gimmicks rather than real solid policy. Whatever. Sure. You know, the thing is about this election is that I feel like it's less about policy at this point and more about personality, because personality is going to tell us about our confidence and how we feel about a person. And even when you hear certain people say they're not voting for Kamala Harris for president, I'm just like, why? Oh, it has nothing to do with her policies. They're not even talking about policies. They're just speaking out misinformation or things about no black woman should be the president. A woman shouldn't run the White House. Like, it's sexist shit. It has nothing to do with policy. So at a certain point, like, I hear all these wonky ass people trying to like negate policy as if that's what's shaping voters' minds. It really isn't, guys. People are voting off of vibes. People, like, it really is. This is a very interesting election, and I blame Donald Trump, and I'll get more to him in a minute. But she's not having these conversations with the press. And I don't blame her, because honestly, the polling and data shows that elected officials making media appearances and talking to the press does little to like virtually no impact on what voters are doing. Kamala Harris is a she's a presidential candidate. She is a candidate running for president. She's not trying to do, like, okay, if you want to talk to her as the vice president, which y'all barely want to talk to her when she's vice president. Now she's a presidential candidate. Now y'all want to talk to her. But the truth of the matter is, her goal is not to win over the press. It's more so to get in contact with these voters. So, to be honest, she's playing catch up. Like, if she had been running for president since, I don't know, January or whatever, and she wasn't talking to the press, that would be a problem. The reality is that she is playing catch up with 30 days she's been a candidate for president, roughly. She's got to play catch up. She's got to let the voters know. And she's not going to put herself in it because, to be honest, most of the time when candidates are running for office, when they're talking to the press, that's typically when they have the most fumbles. Ask Sarah Palin. Ask Donald Trump. Like, ask even Biden. Like, the more he spoke to the press, the more there was all these conversations about his mental health and his mental ability, capacity to run for president. Like, it's not going to benefit, like, let's be 100. It's not going to benefit her strategy-wise to engage the press, especially when there's no need for her to, arguably right now, when she's trying to engage voters. And voters don't care. They don't. They don't care. Most voters are not like, I am upset that she's not talking to the press more, and that's making me decide on how I'm going to vote for her. I do think talking to the press is an important component, but it's not a no now, a no forever with her. It's a right now, I need to get to the DNC. Right now, I want to establish my values, my platform, so that you don't ask me questions, because I know how that feels. I have certain social circles where there are people in a certain cohort and group of mine where they don't read the emails. They don't inform themselves about anything. And then when something comes up, they're like asking more questions that were already answered. And I would rather be the person that has all the answers, all the ducks in a row, so that when I'm asked all these questions, I will have the answers, right? I think that's what Kamala Harris is doing. She has not rolled out her whole platform yet. There's things coming out. There's details she's getting done. She's working at the DNC to ratify things, to figure out what the entire DNC platform is, because that's what also happens at a convention. It's more than just speeches. It's also about platform and policies where, all these delegates are coming together to caucus on certain language and certain things. That's being done right now. The Democratic platform is being created and formulated at our very eyes, right? She does have her own policy positions, but she's also got to run it through the Democrats. Like, the reason why all these delegates and party people are coming to the DNC is because they're there to caucus to establish the Democratic platform. What is a solidified platform? What is the things that they have come together to agree on? Everyone's not going to get what they want, but that's what the delegates are for, to make sure that they establish the Democratic platform. And that platform will inspire Vice President Kamala Harris's platform and agenda. So that's why you don't see it. See, we know what Trump's is because the RNC has established it, and they've already created, Project 47 or Platform 47 and Project 2025. Like, we already know what they got going on. The Democrats right now are pretty much have a plan too, but I think they're trying to shape it, and the DNC is going to help them shape it. And with Kamala being a new presidential candidate, I think she wants to listen to what her party is saying so that she doesn't step over their toes. So there is a lot happening right now, and I just think people should be patient, because right now you can ask her all these questions and she's not going to give you any answers. But after DNC, I believe she's going to talk to the press. She's going to do an interview, and she's going to have more clarity and confidence in her positions and what she's talking about. So I get the strategy. I'm okay with that. And I think there's something about that. And I think it's annoying, as somebody who works in certain groups with organizations and people, it gets annoying when the people who are not a part of that process to create that change are very quick to ask 1,000 questions and want to hound answers. If the person don't have the answer, they don't have the answer. If you want to get to a faster response, then come join the team to get to the answer. Otherwise, you just got to be patient and wait. But that ain't my problem. I'm not the reason. And I think that's what we're seeing is, like, in everything. Be a part of the solution, or consider the person that is trying to get the solution, what they're doing, and give them the grace and the space to do it. And I think that's how I feel about the vice president. Like, I'm just like, look, when you get to that point when you're ready, once this DNC is over, let's talk about the press. And I think she will. But right now, what benefit does that give her? It don't give her anything because you all want to, like, at the end of the day, we ain't dealing with corporate media. Corporate media is trying to get views and trying to sell papers. And if everybody's trying to sell and hustle and capitalism at play and everyone's got another alternative interest outside of just freedom of the press, then we got to be realistic about why candidates are choosing when they want to engage and when they don't, because they recognize that this is their livelihood on lines. And we got to be real about that. And that this is an important election. And so while you will harp on a fumble for 3 fucking weeks, they got to convince voters that they're a lot better than the man that literally doesn't have a plan whatsoever. Because you all in media have done false equivalencies of acting like these people are equals when that's a fucking lie. So I get it. I understand why she is being very thoughtful and very mindful, very demure about how she wants to run her campaign. I'm okay with that. Period. So speaking about people who've been talking to the media, which is why she's not making that mistake, is Trump. Trump is struggling. I mean, this race is a hot mess express. If Trump was not a rich white man, child, this would be over. But again, we don't want to assume, because look what happened with former Secretary Hillary Clinton when she was trying to get that seat, and we just thought that Trump's antics were so much that there was no way he was going to win. He did. He didn't win the popular vote. He won the electoral vote. So at the end of the day, as much as I would love to say Trump is a joke, he is a joke. He's still a very likely winner of this election. This is still a race. Like, we can't say it's a wrap. I wish I could. I think there's a chance. I think Kamala has a real strong chance of winning. I'm very optimistic about her possibility of winning. I'm very, very, very optimistic. She has a chance to win. I really, in my heart and soul, believe that she can win. And I think she can and she will win. But that is going to take people really continuing to push hard and work hard from now till November. Okay? That's just what needs to happen. But Trump is doing the opposite. He is thirsty for attention. He is really bitter about the fact that he's not getting any level of attention whatsoever. He's having these press conferences to try to redirect the conversation. And you guys keep falling for it. A lot of you all are falling for the okie doke. I want to be very clear. Like, what I'm sick of cable news doing, and this is why they don't have me on CNN, okay? They're having these stupid debates. And I'll give Kamala Harris this credit. I'll give the vice president this respect. They're having too many arguments about race. And I care about race, right? Race matters, said, Cornel West, an alpha man who should not be running for president, by the way. But I get over these whole conversations about race and the way it's being discussed. It reminds me of 2008 with Obama. It reminds me of birtherism in 2012. Like, at a certain point, we just have to stop entertaining these stupid conversations and playing into it and being performative. I'm so sick of the performativeness. I'm so sick of white people being performative. I'm so sick of us as a society being performative about these things. White people are some of the best actors and actresses in Hollywood and in America, honestly, because they're just going to put on a performance. It's like the performance of always performing shockness and being outrageous or having to let it be known that you're upset about something. I'm just floored. This is just gross. Like, stop it. Like, we're beyond that point. Like, I don't care. Like, we don't care. If you're a good person and you mean well, you don't have to tell me that you are disgusted by the things that Trump say. Like, who cares? Like as a black person, I'm not walking around telling you every 5 seconds. Like, there's always this, well, you need to speak on this, you need to speak on that. I mean, if I have to speak on every atrocity and let it be known how I feel, then I guess I have not built enough respect as a person for people not to assume the better of me. Like, when a unarmed person gets killed by police, an innocent person's life is taken away, there is a racist remark made by a political figure. Like, in all those instances and moments, and people are like, I was waiting to hear what you got to say. I don't know how pointed I can be at this point, other than people are racist. Let's move the fuck on. Like, Donald Trump is so boring. And I love that the vice president does not speak on none of the shit he's saying. Like, one of the things that the Harris campaign has done very well is that they have not been giving much energy to all these racist ass remarks that Trump is saying. Like, oh, Trump did the questioning of her race identity. She went to the Zeta Phi Beta, conference. They had their big national convention in Houston, and she was there, and she just basically was like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not about to sit up here and play into these games with this man. And it's the same old, same old. It's the same language. That's basically how she dismissed it. And I can appreciate that. Like, I can appreciate just her just moving on past it. Like, I'm just not going to spend this much energy harping on racism. I'm just so tired of the performance of it. Everybody doing it, right? The whole, I'm going to get on social media, I'm going to record somebody saying something racist. Like, why are you recording? Either throw hands or exit the space. I'm more invested in people's safety. Like, if you say that you're mortified and you're feeling victimized and you're feeling toxic or whatever, why the need to videotape it and put yourself and subject yourself to that disrespect? What? Because you think that people are not going to believe you unless you have it on camera? I mean, whatever. Like, who cares? Or better yet, you think that you're going to, like, I just don't get it anymore. I just think the way, like, I think of Tori Morrison, who said it very profound, that racism is a distraction. And let me be very clear about this, right? It's not, like, racism is a distraction, but let me be clear. We're not saying people should be colorblind and not see race. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about racism, like the whole act of how people resort to and engage with it in ways that does not lead to policy or institutional change. So if you do not like racism, right, and you are there, fixating on just observing and opining on, oh, this racist thing happened and this, just the mere fixation of that without, like, this whole argument of, oh, well, people need to know that racism is real. If a person does not believe racism is real, guess what? When you show them that video in 2024, they're still not going to believe it. Like, I just think we're giving racists too much benefit of the doubt. One, we keep acting like racism is an accident. There's no such thing as an accidental racist. If you're out here saying what you're saying, it's because you want to say it and because you want to cause harm. If you're a white person and you say the N-word, you're a racist. I don't give a fuck about the context. I don't give a fuck if your friend said it. If you're using the N-word, you're a racist as a white person. Don't ask me why black people can use it. We've already had this conversation 5,000 times. The reality is, stop worrying about why anybody else is using it and ask yourself, why do you feel like you need to use it? Like, why do you want to use it? Okay. Like, conversation over with that, right? We're going to stop having these conversations because the conversations have gone piss poor. And at this point, I think there's a performance here, right? White people are performing this, I don't know what's going on. I don't get it. I don't see how that was wrong. Like, this is a performance. You did what you want to do. You got caught. Now you got to pretend you don't know to backpedal because you don't want to face the consequences for your bad decisions. The end. That's just what it is, okay? People who do racist things are not doing it by accident. Like, why do we keep saying it was a mistake? No, you did it on purpose. That's how you fucking felt. Now go fuck off. We could just do it like that. Straight like that. A person at a venue or a space is saying racial epithets that could be harmful. I'm not pulling out my camera. I'm getting the fuck up and I'm leaving. And I'm going to tell people once I leave, this place is a racist institution. I don't support it. If a person tells me you should have a camera or do you have any proof, at that point, I'm going to say, I said what I said. If you don't believe it, that's fine. If you want to be complicit and support it, you can. But I said what I said. And that's just what it is. And if you don't believe black people, if you don't believe women, if you don't believe folks that experience these experiences, you can just say that. Because I will tell you right now that you can have all the proof and people will still create an excuse. I'm a journalist. Trust me, I know. When I showed the video, okay, when I had the video of the owner of Eye Candy saying the N-word consecutively on camera, you know what people said? People said this. Some people were like, Oh, I saw proof. I have to stop supporting it. There were black people who was like, oh, I've been heard that man was racist. I didn't go for years. Then there were people like, well, maybe he made a mistake and he was drunk. Okay, so we're drunk and we're using N-word. Just say that you want to still support that man and keep going and fuck you, right? Then there were some people that was like, oh, maybe it was a mistake. People can have a bad day. Okay, so a bad day means you want to say the N-word? You just can't say fuck my life? Okay, never mind, go away. All right. Then there were some people that were just like, oh, well, I mean, you just still want to go. You don't give a fuck. Let's just say that. Chris Brown and Rihanna. Look, we all know that Chris Brown has been abusive and problematic beyond just the incident with Rihanna in 2009. Okay, that was 15 years ago. That we all know that there's been multiple things that Chris Brown has done in his career for years that has been problematic. To see people like Kalani and, Victoria Monet, who I do like Victoria Monet a lot, still go to his concert, they just don't care, guys. They don't care. They don't care. Okay? They don't. Jordan Sparks, she don't care. They don't care. It does not matter to them about that. They like who they like. That's their fave. They care about these issues, but at some point, they just also have their favorites and they like their problematic faves and they like Chris Brown. That's just what it is. And you got to decide as an individual, rather than trying to force people or convert people, you got to accept people for who they are and decide, you know what? My fave is not my fave. Or, look, I like her still, but I'm not about to. But see, the problem is we got to stop obsessing over celebrities and famous people anyway. That's the problem. You want to make people perfect. You want people to be everything you want them to be because you don't make tough decisions. Who gonna pull the trigger? If your fave like Chris Brown, do you not like them anymore because they like Chris Brown? You got to decide where you stand on that issue. Or are you just going to let them live? Or you're not going to let them live. You got to decide, right? Like there are people I know who are Chris Brown, R. Kelly apologists. And I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, you complicit with that motherfucker? Yeah, I'm good on that. People that want to defend, Diddy, they still out here trying to defend Diddy. Okay, you know what? If that's what you want to defend, I'm not fucking with you. But I'm not going to keep making excuses for people and the decisions they make. You know why? Because no one makes excuses for me. I don't get no one gives me the grace to make it. Most people don't. Black women don't get the grace like that, right? It's funny because when Chrisette Michele performed at the Trump inauguration, right? And she made the decision to do that for various reasons. There was no grace for Chrisette Michele with that. It was just pretty much like everybody just threw her to the coffers and just was like, fuck her, right? But how many times does Kanye West get to use mental health and use his mother passing and use all this other shit to justify his actions? At some point, it's been over 10 years. At some point, we gotta let people be responsible for their actions. Because look, other people have lost their mothers. Other people have had mental health issues, but they're not walking around here defending, anti-Semitism and racism and anti-blackness and being misogynistic to black women. Like, I'm just not going to be okay with that, y'all, right? Amber Rose made her decision. Bye, Amber. Like, you just got to, at a certain point, just got to decide for them, right? I'm not going to let people pick us. I'm going to pick, okay? Pick a side and stay there. And if people are deviating for whatever side they on, stop trying to hold them to a standard that they don't give a fuck about. You just got to decide how you going to fuck with them and move accordingly. And so that's how I feel about all this conversation around Trump, racism, and all this. We ain't convincing nobody at this point. If they want to align with him, if you align with Trump, you are with the shit. Some of y'all love y'all mommies and aunties and uncles and fuck. If your parent is rocking with Trump, they're racist, baby. I'm sorry. You got a racist mother. You got a racist father. At this point, it is what it is. Some people just are, fuck that. Let's call a thing a thing. They're okay with his racism. They're complicit with racism. They co-sign it. A vote for Trump is a co-sign for racism. Okay? Period. This man has abused women. This man is a sexist. He's a misogynistic man. Yeah, they're supporting that. Okay? They're okay with that. And so if you are a victim of sexual abuse, if you are somebody who has experienced racism, anti-blackness, then if that's the candidate that they want to support and they want to rock with, they're telling you how they feel. And you either are going to accept the reality of that or you're going to be in delusion. And so the delusion is that I'm seeing too many people do because they don't want to make decisions and make choices. And they want to keep on making excuses and moving the goalposts. To be honest, I am convinced that there are a lot of white people, we know this, that will not call Trump racist, will not speak out against Trump full-heartedly until Trump is caught saying the N-word. Are you ready to hear that reality? Because it's going to hurt y'all feelings, but it's true. Until they hear Trump say the N-word, they're not going to fully feel comfortable going there about Trump. It will not be until Trump says the N-word or gets caught on camera or it's a thing, because he's been accused of saying it. Let's be clear. But until there is some smoking gun moment where he says the N-word, that will be the moment where they will finally do it. And when they do that, remember this podcast, but remember that these are white people that you don't want to be cool with. Because if they're waiting for that, that's telling you that they don't believe your experiences. They don't believe or care. That they don't believe that what he has said already about Mexicans being rapists and all the other things he said about Kamala at the NABJ convention, that all of that stuff that he's been saying for years and doing for years, right? That was not enough for them. And so it will never be enough for them. Which means that to argue with white people about racism, to have these stupid conversations about how people are mispronouncing Kamala's name on purpose, to try to keep talking about, oh, when Trump said black jobs, what do you mean by black jobs? Like, shut up. Like, all of this is just like, we already know what this is. And I'm not having these conversations with white people. I don't do it anymore. And I've been so better for it. When they go, oh, can you believe Trump? Yes, I can. Moving along. We're moving along. Like, that's where I'm at with it. Don't do it with me. Don't. And a lot of you all, stop doing it with them. Stop it. Stop placating. Stop gaslighting yourself. Like, stop doing this with them. Because we're not moving anywhere. It's not changing hearts and minds. It's not leading people to do it. What they want is they want a way to perform virtue. They're virtue signaling. This is virtue signaling. White people being like, oh my goodness, Trump is a racist. Oh my goodness, did you see that video? That is just horrible. That's virtue signaling. We already know that. What are you going to do differently? Are you going to confront daddy and mom? Have you given up on them? Or are you going to try to convert them? Like, what are you doing with racism in your life? To me, racism is a personal conflict for white people to have to address. When white people try to project about racism with other people, I am like, okay, but what are you doing about racism in your livelihood, in your life? What are you doing with your family? What are you doing in your business practices? How are you dealing with racism? It's a personal issue for them. For black people, racism impacts us, but it's not in us when it comes to this. Like, when we talk about actual systemic racism, we don't hold the power, right? So racism impacts us. So the way in which we deal with racism and the way that white people deal with racism should be very different, right? It's a difference between being the culprit and the victim. White people are not the victim of racism. So they should not be talking to us in the same way that we talk about it. Let's be very clear. And that's the problem. We're trying to equivocate too many damn things, and everybody wants to be a victim of stuff. When it comes to this racism shit, white people, you're just not the victim in that. And so you should not be talking about how, oh my goodness, I was so hurt and harmed when I heard him say those racist things. Okay, great. You were hurt by hearing it. But let's be clear, you've heard it before. And you probably said some of this shit once upon a time. And you know people who did. And so don't act like the first time you've experienced racism in Trump was with Trump or with this shit. You know people that are racist. You know them. They're in your book clubs. They're in your yoga training centers. They're in your runner bike speed classes. They're in your social groups. They're in your Democratic committee meetings. Okay, let's talk about it. They're at your pride functions. They're at your nonprofit board meetings. You know these people already. So stop playing. What are you doing then? Because if you're telling me that you were still working with those people and that you're waiting for an article come out to address them on their racism, you did it too late. And that tells me that you're complicit when it's convenient for you. See, let's have the unpleasant conversations. There's a lot of people that know racists and they work with them and they cooperate with them and they know they're racist and they know what problems they have. And they sit back and they sit back and they stand by. Okay? Have that. Have at that. Do that. Have those conversations. Confront that racism. And stop playing in these national conversations and try to virtue signal with me or with anybody for that matter, because it's getting played out. See, 2016 told me everything I need to know about white people, essentially. Like, that was the moment. White women, that was the moment for me, because there was a lot of virtue signaling online. Grab her by her pussy. Oh my God, how inappropriate, how sexist, how problematic white women were saying. And they were like, I'm still gonna vote for him anyway. Exactly. So all of that virtue signaling, all of that feminism talk, white women were doing what they want to do regardless. All that talk about we need decency in the White House, and y'all voted for an indecent ass man. There you go. So again, white women that claim they get it, you better have them real conversations with your girls, your girlfriends, because ain't everybody all up for Harris. I don't believe it. Not everybody is with her. They pretend they are, but let's be real. I feel like with white people specifically, they love trends. And because black and brown people specifically are trend makers on the culture, they will participate in the cultural exchange for relevance and clout, but they will still support the policies and ideals that will harm our culture and our people because they benefit from that. And that is called white supremacy. They'll take the pictures and smile. They'll be in the rooms and they'll do all of that. They'll observe MLK Day and Juneteenth, and they'll have their black friends, quote unquote friends, that they'll like their posts and pictures, and they'll do all of that, right? And then when they go to that ballot and they close that door or that little veil, they will show you who they are at those polls. Okay, so that's why, as I'm optimistic, I'm also very aware of how people lie and how people virtue signal. And this is a time right now, because Trump is so bad as a candidate, nobody wants to affiliate themselves with him. But when I look at these poll numbers, I'm like, why are they still, Kamala's doing good in the polls right now, but they're not astronomical reactions. We're like, why is it still neck and neck, but everybody acting like they don't like Trump? You get what I'm saying? I mean, are y'all feeling that? Like, I'm like, how is this race still close? But everybody I'm looking at and seeing online and seeing around are acting like, Exactly. That's how I know. That silent majority, or that silent immaturity, we'll say. Yeah, it exists. The silent immaturity exists. The silent majority exists. Okay? Let's just keep it 100. So Philly is back in the news. Philadelphia is having its interesting enough, Philly is having its big old debate. The first presidential debate is going to be in Philadelphia on Tuesday, September 10th. That just got announced. I believe it's the ABC debate. It's going to be between Vice President Kamala Harris versus former President Donald Trump. They're going to be butting heads in Philadelphia, I think at the National Constitutional Center, I believe. I don't know anything about credentials and tickets. I would like to go, but we'll see. If I don't go, it is what it is. But see, something like that I would want to go to, because I feel like I can, it's in Philly. It is going to be press-wise. I would love to be there. But, we'll see. It'll be nice. But, that's happening on Tuesday, September 10th. So stay tuned for that. That is going to be one for the books. I am keeping my eyes and antlers open. This week's Ask Ernest is very interesting because I've been hearing a lot about this, and I wasn't going to talk about it at first, but then I was like, I now see a commonality because I've seen another situation that came out, this show, and I was like, let me get into it. So August Alsina has been doing some interviews lately, and I talked about that show, The Surreal Life, about a year ago or so when he was on the show, and there was this guy, he was talking very vague about this guy, but pretty much people have viewed it as their lovers. It appears to be that they're in a romantic relationship, but he doesn't want to call himself gay. He doesn't want to call himself queer. He's like kind of ebb and flowing in it. It's complicated as a Black queer person in this space because there's two sides to this that I see, and I'm just like, a lot. So, this is a lot. So he did an interview lately, and he was just like, as I got older, I've begun to see love for what it is. Like, I don't know why we have to put labels on things, I just love people. And it's very vague, but the guy is it's based on his social media, based on the guy he's involved with. The guy he's involved with, I believe, is openly gay or queer or something in the community, but he himself hasn't, specified, but he's been posting with him. They've been around each other. There's pictures. It's giving lover, right? And even when he did the episode for Surreal Life, he announced this person like as almost like a reveal, but then it was kind of like this vagueness of like, oh, they're very close. And it was like, I mean, obviously he's not just straight up cishet. Okay. So there's two ways I want to look at this. For my queer listeners, my gay, my bisexual, my folks that are in this community that identify and understand this, what I'm about to say. Maybe this is unpopular opinion. I struggle with this, how to get this word out. But I think I've heard enough to recognize enough to make this point. Because as a person who identifies as gay, queer, I'm openly out. I'm out. I am who I am. But I feel like people who are specifically not trying to identify as gay or queer, or not trying to identify their sexuality in this regard, it's not that they don't know what their identity is. It's because of the fact that they basically view this as something that they, as a community, that they don't want to have to feel like they need to advocate for or defend or be in community with. And I think that is very selfish. I think it's kind of fucked up, to be honest. I think it's one of those things where I see what it's giving, where they do identify based on their interest, but they don't. And I think we hear about this with certain Black people. And so white people and straight people, please do not just listen to this and do not feel like you need to discuss this with me, because part of the reason why we have this problem, and we're going to get to y'all in the second half of this part, is because of y'all asses. So I just want y'all not to feel like y'all can be like, yes, yeah, because this is not for you all, because you're a part of this problem. But for my queer folk in this space, this is a moment for us to engage, hear it. You straights, listen to this and take notes and observe and mind your business. But let me explain what I mean with this. I think about this, and even in communities of color, there are Black people who say, look, I'm Black, right? I am an African American, whatever. But they don't necessarily engage with the community. They don't necessarily address issues that impact the community at large. They identify when it's at their convenience, right? They are in Blacks. They don't engage in Black spaces. They rarely do. They like to be the only Black person in the room. It's very anti-Black, but very much so. They are who they are. They're still Black people. I'm never going to say you're not Black. No, they're Black. They just don't feel like for whatever reason, it doesn't benefit them, right, for whatever they're doing. That's why people always talk about Republicans, right, like Black Republicans or Black Trumpers, right? It does not benefit them. They have capitalized and grifted off of this access and proximity to whiteness for their own benefit. They want to be tokenized. They want to be involved in that way because they have benefited off of being the minority in that regard, right? So it makes sense why they choose to marry only white people and hang out in white spaces and shit on other Black people, because they're still Black. They will never not be Black, but they purposely choose to identify in those spaces because they get a social benefit from it. When I went to Penn, I remember, and this is so funny because this is what we're talking about, there was this obsession with Black students at Penn that never wanted to identify strictly as being Black Americans. They always would talk about, and let me be clear, there were some that were not, quote unquote, African American or Black Americans. But even those who were, right, they would love to point out to some identity, racial identity that was, or some connection that was foreign. So they'll say things like, oh, I'm mixed with Dutch. I have some British. They will always point to all these other nationalities, and even other nationalities that were not American Black. So they'll be like, I'm Nigerian American, or I'm Nigerian, I'm Haitian, and my folks are from here. But then I start asking some of these people, well, where were you born? Were you born in Nigeria? Are you? No. Okay. Your parents. No, your grandparents. But you're still going to say Nigerian because you don't want to hold this specific American connectedness to Blackness. There was a shaming of it. And I've seen at a lot of Ivy institutions where a lot of the Black kids there will be American born. And hell, even their parents, or some of their parents are American born, but they will go back to grandparents, other people, or origins to still hold on to that identity. But they wanted to separate themselves from just being just quote unquote black. Like being just black just felt like, and I always thought that was disgusting because baby, I'm just black, baby. I don't know if I got some Creole, whatever, Haitian, child, it's many miles removed. I'm just black. Okay. My mama, my parents, my mother, my father, they were born in Chicago. My grandparents was born in the South. Like, that's my life. I don't have no, I don't know. If there is some, I can't, I mean, the family tree goes back. Clearly, we're from Africa. We come from the continent of Africa, our original descendants. But like, as far as my close upbringing, it's American, right? I don't need to fake that. I don't need to pull from something to do that. But I just noticed a lot of black folks, especially in Ivy League spaces or places like that, they did that. And there was a proximity to separating themselves from black Americanness. Now, I'm not one of these ADOS people, which is African American descendants of slavery. I don't try to play into those politics. I don't like to do that. That's just too much. But there is something, but part of it is that they want to separate themselves from being descendants of slaves because they don't want that. There's a shaming around slavery and enslaved people. They don't want to have that connection. And so I know a lot of people talk about Haiti or Ethiopia, or they'll say things like Haiti is the now some people are, immigrants and their family and that. I get that, where they come from. I get that. But there is something about like folks, like the shaming of slavery that have made people want to distance themselves from that type of ancestry in that direct way. Oh yeah, this is a very deep episode. I'm going in, I'm having these moments right now, but I got a lot on my mind. I just want to flesh it out. So what I think about this conversation around people who are queer but don't want to identify, or people who are engaged in that, right? But they don't identify or those labels, it's because of the fact that they recognize the connotations of being gay. And they recognize there's a shamefulness. There is an anti-queerness there. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to call it for what it is. And that's going to make people feel like, well, what if they aren't? There is at the root of it a shame and a stigma around that label, that's why they don't want to use it. Not because that's not who they are. That's who they are. But that's because they just don't want that stigma because they're ashamed. There's still some self-shame and some uncomfortableness of that. Because to be clear, queer is very over-encompassing of various identity politics, right? Like it takes in various ways of expression. It doesn't put you in one particular box. It doesn't call you gay. I say queer because of my expression and of my orientation. I don't fit this very, very rigid thing. Now, my husband would probably, we say queer because we just say that, but because of our politics around it, but he's probably textbook gay based on how people would look at it. He's a he's a cis gender gay man. Like he doesn't have anything that would signify anything gender queer wise about his expression or his personality. He's just typically a gay guy. I typically don't give a fuck. I'm either queer or gay. I'll be in a space and say I'm gay for folks who understand what queer means. But when I'm in certain space, I'll say queer just to, encompass everything. But like, honestly, to me, the labels are what they are. I like men. That's just what it is. Like, is what it is. I'm married to a man. I'm sexually attracted to men. Like, that's just who I am. Like, I'm not going to try to create all these words. But that being said, I hear people like to say things like fluid and all this. That's fine. But please understand that if you feel like you don't want to say gay or bi or queer or anything, or you don't want to assemble yourself in this respective community, there is some internalized self-hate or shame there, I believe, behind that. Because why I say that is because when August Alsina was identifying as straight, oh, that man wanted y'all to know he was straight. Okay, he was never poetically fluid or all that. Oh, no, you know what's funny? Straight people never shy away from saying they're straight. But it's funny how people who are quote unquote identified as straight, but then dabbled into other things, how they are afraid. Now all of a sudden they don't care about labels. You know that straight people never run away from labels. But people that, even white people. I never met a white person that never was like, I'm not white. unless they were on some Rachel Dolezal shit. Like white people, like whether they're American white, French white, European, Eastern European white, like whatever white they are like, I'm white. They never try to play that game. They never go, I'm not white. I'm Parisian. I'm French. I'm Dutch. Like, they're white. White people just know they white. And they don't even like shy from that. But black folks and folks from marginalized spaces will deviate because of the trauma there, right? Some of them will deviate because they are trying to avoid whatever stigma that is. And so with August Alsina, I find it cowardly. I'm not going to hold you. I find it cowardly. I personally can say it as a queer person. I find it cowardly. Like you want to be able to enter this space or enter a world where you can openly be out with this man. But it took people at Stonewall, queer people, trans people, black and brown, queer, trans folks, and other gay people that fought for the right for that to be decriminalized, for you to be able to now be on Instagram with this dude and not be persecuted in that way. It's a slap in the face. All these people that want to play this, they want to separate themselves. It was the civil rights movement of black people who were descendants of slavery that allowed for black people in this country, regardless of whether, because let me be very clear, white people don't give a fuck about whether you're Caribbean American, Jamaican, Ethiopian, Eritrean, black. We just black. And they don't give a fuck about that. So when you want to walk into space and be like, oh, my country was the first one to liberate from slavery, that's great. That's wonderful. But you're black and you're in America. You're still here anyway. And this country does not give anybody any special, if you get shot by a white cop, the white cop didn't care. They didn't say, okay, I'm not going to shoot you unarmed because you're Caribbean. I'm going to shoot this one from Ohio because he's an American black. They don't give a fuck. So I don't get caught up in these diasporic wars, these stupid conversations around nationality and ethnicity, because we're very against the fight against white supremacy. This is about unifying to fight white supremacy, and white supremacy does not care about these distinctions. Okay, they don't, and that's the same thing about us as queer people. At the end of the day, the August Alsina, you're in that room with those. You was at a table with Nick Cannon, these straight men. They still think you're weird, and you know what? They still think you're gay. They still think you're gay. They don't care about all that fluid shit. When you telling people in a room, I know some people like that. They like, oh, I don't believe in labels, or I'm da da da. Okay, but guess what? You start telling people you sleep with men, and they're gonna look at you and go, huh? They don't give a fuck. Join the club, baby. You're in the family. Okay, whether you like it or not, society is going to put you in the family. This whole I hate labels, you hate the labels because you think that not having a label is going to protect you from the bullshit. No, it's not. You're going to still get if you're open and you're comfortable with your sexuality and you tell people who you are, they're going to still put a label in there. Okay, they're not going to care. All that all these other language, all these verbs, they're going to still put you in the box, baby. So you might as well embrace people in community that actually give a fuck about you, that will care about you, that will provide you the resources to make sure that your health and your mental health is there. Because coming out and being who you are out loud comes with a lot. And you want to be in community and spaces that are affirming to that. And if you think you can do it by yourself in cishet spaces, child, okay, we'll see where that goes. I give it 2 years with August, okay? He'll find out. But I say this because, and this brings me to my other point. Straight people, y'all can't say nothing about this. Y'all love to be like, be who you are. Child, the reason why August Alsina cannot fully identify or find labels or hopscotch around this is because he was in that world. He saw how y'all did people because he used to do it. He know how y'all really feel. He knows that when y'all see me in public and y'all go, hi, Ernest, I love your writing. You're so great. That y'all in some room being like, he's so gay. Why he gotta talk about gay shit all the time? Why he gotta be, you know what I'm saying? He wears on his shoulder like the way straight people do, right? Like, I know how this goes. He knows that because August was in that room. He knows how y'all really feel about gay people. The reality is that you got to get to a point as a queer person, as a fluid person, whatever. You gotta get to a point where you don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about what y'all think about me. I don't. I have chosen love. I have chosen self-care. I have chosen self-preservation above the care of what people think about my sexual orientation at this point. And August, it's like, sweetie, fuck them. If, like, really, fuck them. Like, really, truly. Because the goalposts will be moved, right? Oh, I know the goalposts, baby. I've seen them move the goalposts around it. Straight people, you don't get to control this. Where it was, okay, gay people are okay, but not the feminine ones. Okay, then it became about femme shaming, right? Why you gotta have a bag and nails? You didn't like me when I liked men. Now you care about the bag and the nails? Fuck you, right? Then it becomes, now the new one is, they're transphobic. So now some of them are like, okay, I'm okay with people being gay, but now you gotta be this. They want to conflate sexual orientation with gender identity, and that's not even this fucking same conversation. But they'll move the goalpost on various issues. So I realize with people who don't like you, they don't like you. Because people that care about you, that love you, that accept you, that embrace you, right? They're not going to move the goalpost on the level to which they embrace you. My friends have embraced me on all levels. Whether I was in leotards, whether I had the nails on, the bag off, all the different expressions I have had over the years with my sexuality and my gender expression. They've never put a goalpost and said, this is crossing the line. Because that's not how this works. And they understood that. And so I just want people to understand, like, I want to tell my queer folks out here, or folks in this community that try to say, oh, I don't want to label, I want this, that it's too much. There's this show that I was hearing about where there are these women who are married to men that they identify as SSA, same-sex attracted. What the fuck is, they don't go by gay. I guess they're in the Mormon community. I was looking at, there's this show of these women who date these men, and they're SSA, they're same-sex attracted men, but they're married to them. But, you know, they recognize that, okay, they're attracted to these men, but, you know, they're not gay. They don't identify as gay. They just can be in spaces around these men who might be attracted. I know some of y'all looking like, what the fuck? No, not what the fuck, straight people. No, you don't get to do that. Because y'all have created such a fucking stigma that now everybody's saying words that's not gay. Now to say you're gay or to say you're queer is the worst. And now y'all just like, what the fuck? Just say, no. You created this. You created this. You create this shame and this stigma around sexuality, that this is what we're seeing. And so now there are men married to women that their wives allow them to hang out with other men that are in the same experiences. Some of us will call this a gaggle, but it's not a gaggle gaze. But no. It's SSA, same-sex attractive men that are around each other. You know, they're just around each other. And they go off the trips. They go to the gym and play basketball, even if they don't know how to play basketball, but they're around other male spaces. But they don't do anything because, you know, they're just, this is the way that they get off mentally. But this allows them to. But they have wives that have accepted this because they understand that this is something in them. You know, y'all get what I'm going here. Y'all get where I'm going here with this. All I'm saying is this is the world that we're in. This is what has happened when we've created environments where people cannot feel fully comfortable to be themselves. Period. So I'm just telling people, like, we just gotta get to a place where straight people gotta be honest and be accountable for the environments they've created around sexuality, and stop performing the shocker of this, because you all know people in your lives and in your networks. You see where I'm going? You see the pattern, y'all? Y'all see what I'm doing here with racism? You see how I talked about that earlier? It's a pattern. It comes full circle. Let's not act like we don't know people like that. We know people like that. We know the jokes. We hear the things. You all have created an environment that stigmatizes people from feeling this way. So that's why you got people like August Alsina out here that's talking about, I don't believe in labels, because they're so scared to just say, I'm in love with another man, right? They can't say that. I'm sexually attracted to this man, right? Because to say that is to open up the door, and they don't want to answer those questions. They don't want to deal with it. So they just say, love is love. Man, okay. All right. Okay. And then you got people who are on this whole, I just don't really believe in labels. I just shut up. Because when it's time to answer those questions and it's time to be real with people, there's a quietness there. And I've heard some people, and I'm going to say this is very hurtful. That I dealt with this years ago, like over 10 years ago, with men that told me, and this is when I had to stop. My whole understanding changed around sex. Like, there were men that I dated, or I don't even say dated, because I think dating implied, but hooked up with, where they were like, I don't identify as gay because I identify as gay is to put myself in a community. For me, it's not a community, it's just sex. And I looked at this person like, what the fuck are you talking about? But it was this, but let me be clear what this meant. They voted, their politics, their entire way of thinking was homophobic, was self-hatred. They make homophobic jokes. They basically don't care about gay marriage. They don't care about these issues. They're not going to confront homophobes. But for them, having sex with a man was just sexual. It's like, I'm horny. This is what I like to get into. I do it, and then I go back to my girlfriend, my wife, whatever my situation is. I vote the way I vote. I care. Like, for them, it's just sex. They don't care. And this is the thing, right? You'll say, some of y'all may say, well, why would they be like this? Why would they think like this? Because for them, again, they have a level of self-hate with themselves that they don't see. They don't want a relationship. They don't. There are men that told me, and I was much younger and realized that this was not healthy for myself, my confidence, my self-esteem. But like, okay, you're an attractive man. We have sex. But what does it feel like for that man to tell you it's just sex? And tell you that there's never they don't have any interest. Like, how some men tell a woman, well, that they'll be like, oh, I don't want a relationship. Now, let's be clear. They want a relationship with a woman, maybe not with that particular woman. But what does it feel like for a man to specifically say, I just have a fetish. I just want sex. I just see men as a means to an end. Like, I don't want to hang out. I don't want to text. I don't want to hug. I don't want to do any of that. I don't want intimacy that way. I don't want any of that. I just want to fuck. Like, there's men like that in the world, and they don't want labels on it. They actually don't use. They call themselves straight. They just say, I fuck men on the side, and that's all. But if you was to ask them, do they support gay marriage? No, they don't. Because they don't support gay marriage because they don't want to marry a man. They don't even want that. And they're disgusted with the idea of actual same-sex relationships. Like, they don't even want a relationship. They're like, how can anybody want to actually date and love? Like, this man was like, one time we went out, and it wasn't even a date. It was so weird. We went out for drinks, and then I found out what he wanted. And then it was weird because then we had the conversation. It was like, oh, wow, like, you really are self-hate. Like, this is just sex for you. Like, you don't want to create a connection. Like, you don't want any of that. Like, it's not even you don't want a friendship because that's like, you don't want to be friends with a gay guy because that's too much. Like, you see it as sex work. Like, you see it as pick up an escort kind of thing. That's a real thing. I know some of y'all like, what the fuck? Yeah. It's real. There are people like that. And so August Alsina doesn't appear to be like that, to be clear. It seems like August Alsina has an intimacy, have a thing. But I want to be clear that there's a lot of men out here, because of the stigma of all of this, they have treated this like it's a fetish for them rather than who they want to be. And that's a lot. That's a lot of trauma. But that trauma didn't come from them. That didn't just start alone. That trauma came from a father, a mother, parents, a football team, a social club, a college setting, a fraternity. Like, all of that came from a place. And until straight people are willing to dismantle and fight homophobia, not just only for other gay people, right, but for the society which they want to live in and the environments they want to be in, we all got to do it. There's a real reason why none of us benefits from this, whether we are or not, right? Because it's just, it's tough. It's a lot. So that's my thoughts on that. So with movies, it ends with us, the drama. It continues. At this point, more and more people are realizing why Blake Lively is a mess, which I told you a little about this last week, but there's been more developments. Justin Baldoni, who is the actor in that film, and also he's an actor in the film, and he's also the director of the film. he now has hired a crisis PR communications firm. Like he's got a crisis PR team helping him with his image because there's been a lot being said about this drama between him and Blake Lively. Blake Lively, I mean, as this movie, I think people have now seen the movie. A lot of people have seen the movie now at this point, so now people can now formulate opinions about it. I am so into this drama a little bit because Blake Lively is experiencing what is called the J-Lo phenomenon, which is basically where at one point in time, you're this beloved celebrity. Everybody loves you. Everybody admires you. And then all of a sudden, you just become so full of yourself and your nasty ways begin to get traction. And then people begin to start to recognize like how messy or mean you really are in real life. And I think that's happened with Blake Lively, where now people are starting to like showcase, like say, hey, she's not really been that much of a nice girl. I mean, she was a gossip girl. Now she's a mean girl. But like her, she's kind of vapid when it comes to certain issues and things. I mean, I've been looking at these interviews that she's done in the past and currently, and it's like, wow, even with the issues around, domestic violence, that is a topic in this film, she's been very just brushing things off, self-promoting herself. It's just it's not been a good look. And so I feel like every year or every other year, there's always some behind the scenes movie drama. I remember it was like that with this movie with Florence Pugh and I done forgot the movie because that movie just kind of came and kind of went. But Florence Pugh was in this film with Harry Styles, and it was supposed to be this big old movie that really didn't bode well. A lot of people didn't. I mean, it was like an okay film. But I remember people was really like hyping it up. It was called Don't Worry, Darling, and it came out in 2022. But she was in Don't Worry, Don't Worry, Darling. And I just remember all the drama on that set with the director and all the people and how that blew up. And, at a certain point. And she's very young, Florence Pugh. She's like 28 now. She's, again, another actress ahead of her time. Oscar nominated, all that. But yeah, it's just, these type of movie rollouts, it's like the controversy and drama makes people go see the movie. But then if people go see the movie and they walk away not liking you in the end, it's like, was it even worth it? So I don't know. I struggle with her. So with music, the VMA nominations are here. Taylor Swift has like the most, I believe. Eminem has a lot, which is ridiculous. Meg Thee Stallion has a few. Billie Eilish has some. The awards is going to be on Wednesday, September 11th. It's a lot of weird omissions. Like, I just thought Meg Thee Stallion for Hiss was going to get more love. Ariana Grande did get a nomination for Video of the Year for We Can't Be Friends, I believe. Couple of people, it's just very poppy. I mean, Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter didn't even get nominated for Video of the Year, which I thought was weird. But there's just a lot of just interesting omissions, a lot of payola. I mean, Fortnite was not a big hit by Taylor Swift. I mean, it was number one on the charts, but it was not like this grandstanding Taylor Swift song. I don't, it's a lot. But she's got like 17 nominations or something like that. It's a bunch of nominations, I remember. But I mean, it's obviously a grab because they want her to come to the VMAs. She's going to promote Reputation, Taylor's edition, once this whole Tortured Poets Society or whatever, like it's department, it's getting wild. Like it's just too much. But like, I feel like the VMAs has become obviously an industry money grab. Like, I feel like celebrities, it's giving payola. I feel like celebrities are like buying nominations or hype. They're using it as an opportunity to promote things. And whoever's got a new album coming out or whatever, it gets cemented and situated among the crew. So everything happens. So for example, the Video Vanguard Award, I was just talking to Jamarcus about this. We didn't know who got it at first. It was like early last week, but I said, Katy Perry's going to get this award this year. And he's like, you think so? I was like, yeah, Katy Perry's getting it. He's like, why? I said, because Katy Perry needs to get this. One, she is a video icon. I mean, Katy Perry music videos are very iconic. I will not take that from her. She's produced some good videos, especially during the, what era? It was the Teenage Dream era. Was probably one of her best eras ever. Actually, she made some of her most iconic videos in that era. I mean, all her number one hits. I mean, those videos alone took her to the top. But she's always been a video girl. So yeah, she's been in the game for long enough. I get it. I get why she's getting a Video Vanguard Award. It makes sense. So she's getting it, right? But like now she's trying to make this comeback. You gotta remember her album is dropping in September. That album is dropping like right around the time of the VMAs. So she's putting all of her ducks in that boat to try to get everything she can to get as many sales and promotion for this. And the VMAs is gonna be her big ticket. Because her lead singles that are produced by Dr. Luke, and everything that went down with him and Kesha, that's been hurting her. She has not done well on the charts with these latest singles. I mean, she's had 2 singles, 1 music video for one of them that just did not get traction. Like everything about this era has been a flop on arrival. And it's because of Dr. Luke. I will say that people are just like, no, I'm not supporting. The pop girls, the stan girls, they're not here for it. And there's just been a lot of people backing away. But MTV is, giving her this Video Vanguard Award. They really want her to have her moment. She's going to do a set, perform her greatest hits or whatever, and remind people why she's that girl. But the problem is, I just don't think there is an energy there. Katy Perry is a remnant of the 2010s. We're getting close to the mid 2025s, right? So if we're in the mid 2025s, the 2020s, the mid 2020s, she's like yesteryear. She hasn't really given any good music in like what, 5 or 6 years, maybe over 6 years, maybe. I mean, she just has not been good. The music is not good. She's been out of the relevance box for a while now. I mean, she's got a fine husband. I mean, Orlando Bloom and her are dating. I mean, that's a good win, right? And she's been hosting American Idol, Now Carrie Underwood is replacing her, which is smart. But I don't see it. I just don't see it. I mean, I don't see it. The 2 songs I've heard from the album, it's not promising. I just feel like this is just being forced on us as it is. So, Kate, I want to get to Taylor Swift as a problem. Ron Chappelle, who's this incredible singer, I've been big on Ron Chappelle. Chappelle Roan. Let me get her name right. Chappelle Roan. Been loving her music, really getting into it. I definitely think there are Grammys on the horizon for her. I definitely can see a Best New Artist really for her, but Sabrina Carpenter will be her big competition. Both of the girls are doing their thing, but I really like, Chappelle Roan. And one of the things I like about her is that, she's really doing her thing. She's climbing up the charts. This upcoming Billboard charts is looking like, there was a chance for Taylor Swift, a chance for her to get number 1 on the charts, but it looks like Taylor Swift might actually pull another week at number 1, not because this album is so great, but yeah, she's number 1. She's coming in number 1 on the charts for a 15th week atop the Billboard 200. Chappelle Roan is going to be at number 2. There was a 5,000 album equivalent gap between them. And Taylor Swift had dropped these deluxe versions, which I can't even keep up with the variations. It's probably, I don't, maybe there's, I don't know how many variations at this point. It's over 40 something variations of this album. But she's dropped some other special deluxe to try to kill off and eat off of Chappelle Roan. And it worked because once she dropped that deluxe, enough of her fans was able to drive up the sales to keep her at the ranking. Now, this is just nasty capitalism. This is just dirty. It is just dirty as fuck. It's fucked up. And it's just at this point, Taylor Swift, it's just giving desperation. I mean, she has the fans to do it, but, people are saying she's blocking, artists from getting number 1 or doing whatever. I mean, I struggle with this because in one sense, it's okay, look, Eminem was the one to stop her. I mean, he's problematic as fuck, but Eminem had enough fans and support to stop her. He dropped an album, he stopped her. If Adele dropped the album, she could be able to stop her. I mean, Billie Eilish couldn't do it. you know, Kanye West typically has, but he just lost his 11th consecutive album streak of getting number one. So he could have even stopped her with a new album. But, Eminem did, and Eminem went back to went down the charts after that. There is artists that can do it. You just got to have a stronger fan base and be popular enough to do it. That's just the bottom line. Sabrina Carpenter's new album I think it's called Sweet and Low, or Short or whatever. I can't wait to listen to it on Friday. She's dropping her new album. I think that she'll be able to do it when her album gets the fully chart for the week. She'll do it. I think she'll do it. I think Sabrina Carpenter will be able to do it. But I had to say that, an artist got to work hard. But all that being said, that aside, just the way that she's moving though is like, I don't see her getting Grammy Album of the Year again. I don't think the industry is in favor of it. I mean, she's doing what she wants to do for herself. I get it. She's in her villain era. That's fine. But again, I don't see the industry respecting this. And I think that she's definitely lost a lot of goodwill with the recording industry based on these moves. And I promise you that when this era is over, I do think Billboard is going to change the rules in some kind of capacity. So what is probably going to happen is, if a certain number of variations continue to drop of an album, they might not even count it in that way. They might be like, you know what? Special edition, this is this. Like they're going like if you make any more deluxe editions, they're not going to keep counting that. They're just only going to count the deluxe edition might chart on different, but if you got to stick to one deluxe edition and one format. Like they might only say, okay, look, you're only going to get one major album drop, and if you do a deluxe edition, we'll count that. But after that, if you keep making 1,000 variations, we're not going to count that towards the original charting for the album. It's going to start charting this on a separate tip. We're going to start separating that at that point. Because at this point, I feel like she done made 4,000 or 5,000 different albums. And at some point, it's like, is this really the Tortured Poets Department, or this is something else? So that's my thoughts on that. I'm about over that, just that nonsense, because this is like at a certain point, it's just giving greed holistically. So this new Gaga and Bruno Mars song, y'all been asking me, Die With A Smile. It's not on her new album. Her team has confirmed that this new single that she just dropped is not going to be on her new album and also Bruno Mars's album. So this is just a standalone single that I think is just a smart strategic way to bring them back into the music conversation. Gaga is taking a break for a little bit. She's popped up a little bit, but now Gaga's back and she wants to do her music. So she's back. Bruno, I guess, is back too. I don't know what project he's doing, but it's interesting because it looks like he's changed his identity again. Bruno is a chameleon child. He just cosplays as different people. He cosplayed as like, black soul artist. He, now he's like playing around and dabbling in Western. How inspired. So Gaga is doing a Tommy Lynette look, or people think Dolly Parton with the cigarette video. So they did the video. The video was whatever. I wasn't crazy about the video. I hate cigarette smoking. I just don't know why she just has to be agitating Aggie with the cigarette smoking thing. Gaga is just always going Gaga, even when it's just sometimes annoying. But she did the video was okay. It was just a video. The song, right? So here's my thoughts about the song. It's a good song. Like, it's a good song. Like, it's not a bad song. The vocals are vocaling. They can sing. But that's it. Like, I was bored. I'm not going to hold you. I found it boring. And what I mean by that is that, like, it's a very standard, innocuous ballad. It's not like anything. There's no risk. There's no experimentation. There's nothing fun or creative where I'm like, wow, this is good. But there's something different. It's not sound like anything I'm hearing on radio. So, for example, like, I like Shiro by Billie Eilish. I love that song. Oh, I love that. It sounds so good. And I know people are like Birds of a Feather, right? Like Birds of a Feather is a very fun song. She sings, it's vocal, it's upbeat, it's fun, it's a production, a sound. Like, I just want fun music. Like, Or, and when I mean fun, I don't mean that you can't sing. I mean, like even with like 20, like 16 carriages, right? That was just a song. Like she's singing, the lyrics are saying something. Like there's a story in those lyrics, and Beyonce is saying something different, and she's singing it, the music, the production. Like I just want something that has like creativity, and this is just so innocuous. Like this song could have came out 5 years ago. This song could have came out 10 years ago. Like it's they say a timeless hit, but see the problem with timeless hits, right? Like that, songs like that, is that in order for it to be a timeless hit, it has to be so mainstream and so universal that literally everybody can like it, which means it has to be the most basic song ever. And the only thing that saves the basic ass song is the fact that they sing well, but the lyrics are not really saying anything. The musical arrangements are so soft rock and cliche. And so I've only heard the song like twice. I heard it with the music video and I listened to it without the music video. So first, what I do, kind of like when I consume music, I try not to watch the music video first because I wanted to plant the image in my mind. So I listened to the song first without seeing the video because I just wanted to hear the song. And I was kind of like, okay. And then when I saw the video with the song, I was like even more like over it because I was like, oh, this is so corny. So like, yes, the song as a song is good, but cultural impact is flat. I'm not, It's going to chart because people like Bruno and people like Lady Gaga and people like a cheesy, corny song. And because they sing so well and they sing it so well, that's going to allow them to make the argument that they're talent, right? And they might stay on number one. They might get on number one in the charts. They might stay at number one for several weeks. I can see it being an ongoing number one song. I can see that. There's really nothing out right now. The charts are very much dreary. So I can see it being a number one easily. But then you also got Sabrina Carpenter's new album coming out. And I'm curious about the bangers and the vibes that she's going to be providing with this new album that's been highly anticipated. So there's that possibility as well. But I really do think, yeah, this song is going to be a hit. It's going to be a karaoke hit. It's going to be a karaoke hit. It's going to be something that people are going to put on their social medias for date nights and engagements and things like that. I'm already seeing it show up already. Like, it's just a safe song. And I like with Bruno Mars, he's so freaking talented as a singer. I'm kind of annoyed that a lot of his music has become so cliche and jukeboxy that it's like, wow, could you imagine if he ever tried to really do something really different? And I felt like he had that moment with Unorthodox Jukebox, like Locked Out of Heaven. Oh, that's a banger. The lyrics are a little corny, but I love what he did. Like, I would say the lyrics were actually a little bit more elevated. I really love Locked Out of Heaven. Oh, that was my sleaze song. That was my anthem. I love that song. That's my favorite Bruno Mars song. Yeah. Yeah, Locked Out of Heaven is my favorite Bruno Mars song. Because I like the double entendre. I like the metaphor. I liked all of that. If you actually listen to the lyrics, and actually there's some very good suggestive provocativeness there. I kind of appreciate that. So yeah, Locked Out of Heaven might be my favorite Bruno Mars song. All the other albums and stuff, Leave the Door Open, I always find that corny. I get people like it, but it's like, that was like the last time I feel like Bruno was like original. Like everything he's been doing has been very like R&B groove soul, want to sound like he's on somebody's R&B list. Like it's very cartoonish to a certain extent, the looks, it's just gimmicky. But it sells because America loves a gimmick. So, who am I to tell him not to do it? So moving along, lastly, TV. Love and Hip Hop is getting spicier and spicier, but I know some of you all are seeing how that plays out. What I will say slightly is that this past episode that came out, I've been following the Kirk and his love affair and his drama with his baby mama, even though he's married to Rashida. Erica, who is the Erica Little Scrappy's baby mama, who never married him, but feels like she has the key to his heart. even though he keeps going back and forth with Bambi, which is another story. There was a confrontation that was had because Messy Mama D, which is Scrap's mother, Little Scrappy's mother, that's his mother's name, Mama D. She wants to stir the pot, and so she invites Jasmine to her little rendezvous that she has. And it's kind of like, why is this? Why is this happening? Why is she bringing her here? But she's bored and she wants to stir the pot, and so of course, Jasmine tells Mama D that basically, she's been propositioned sexually by Kurt Frost, even though he's still married to, Rashida, because they had a love child outside of his marriage, clearly. So that drama is going on. But long story short, Erica decides to pop in and ask, Jasmine the tea. And Jasmine, like, she has no tea for her specifically because, she's not Mama D and she doesn't know why this woman is talking to her. And Erica wants to be rude and be catty and all this other stuff. And it's like, listen, girl, I know you're friends with Rashida, but Rashida's sticking beside her man regardless. So you can't care more about this than her. Like, Rashida is not going anywhere. She just wants the attention of feeling like she's a woman being sworn. But like, that's why Kirk is doing what he's doing, because these men be letting them. These women be letting them, actually. And Kurt is not going nowhere because she likes to talk about the seniority of the marriage to trump over dealing with the fuckery that he does. And I'm just kind of like, at a certain point, Rashida, you have to accept that your man is not faithful and he doesn't plan to be faithful. You have to come to terms with that reality as well. It can't all just be, on him or whatever. So that's just an observation I've made. Outside of that, the show that I've been watching obsessively has been Bel-Air. I love this new season. The first 3 episodes have come out. We all thought it was going to be, it was a drought for a minute because, some of the stars had to go out and make their music, We've seen them, not Jabari Banks, that music, I don't know what he's doing with his blonde look. I don't know what he's got going on music-wise. But, I'm talking about, some real singers out here that is, putting out that good music. And I love it because some of it is good music that we want to hear. That's replacing trends. I'm not saying they're replacing the greats, but they've been putting out some good music. Coco Jones, she's the actress that is currently in Bel-Air. She's back on the show. She's got her performance has been great. But, she had to win her a Grammy or so, and she had to go out here and make music and do a music career that's really popping off. And also the other cast members, they're doing their thing. But the show is back. It's really good. I'm so happy Peacock gave us the first 3 episodes of the season because, we want to see what we want to see. But I'm excited about this new season. What I also love about this show is that their return, they do return when they left off. Sometimes when a season takes long to get back, people always forget about the drama that had you biting your nails, right? They do continue from the plot of the last season. So we're not in the dark, y'all. This season 3 is doing what it's doing. So it's been great so far. So I'm excited. But yeah, I'm loving what I'm watching. Shout out to the show. More to come. Is going to be really, it's going to be lots of passion and lots of, good stuff. So, yeah. So overall, I will say that, this week is going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing all the things that are coming with this DNC, Dr. Phil. This is a hella long episode, but y'all love me for it. But there's a lot going on, so I'm excited. I cannot wait to give you all the behind the scenes look on what goes down in next week's episode. So the upcoming episode, I will tell you all the things that I will not blast only on social, but you'll hear exclusively here, like you heard this good news. And I'm just ecstatic. So as always, be well and be best.
Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.